Saturday evening. Welcome back to the LTL True Crime Live. And it is, wow, it's already December 30th, 2023. I feel like this year has flown by like crazy. We're just one day away from 2024. And I hope everybody has a lot of things planned for 2024 because I think it's going to be a huge year for everybody. I think this is going to be the comeback year. I feel it in my bones. It's either going to be the comeback year or it's going to be the year that everybody gets things accomplished. I don't know. That was a terrible opening monologue. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. We're back here again. Going to talk Idaho 4 tonight. Obviously, we just had the demolition of the King Road house on December 28th. Which a lot. I mean, if I took a poll, and I should have taken a poll, I think I did take a poll. Let me look. I think I put one out on my community page. I didn't. I just had more kind of a question answer session. But if I think I took a poll on my channel, they'd probably, 90% of the people would have said, leave that house up. 10% would have said, demolish the house. And, Scott Green, the president of the University of Idaho, felt it was necessary to go on with this destruction the other day. And it's just a sad day. It's an extremely, extremely sad day. I think there's a lot of implications. I have a huge presentation tonight that we're going to go through. And it's just very sad overall. It really is. And I just hope that every T and every I was dotted before that house was torn down. And we had a lot to talk about the house specifically tonight. That's what a lot of the live stream is, tonight's stream is going to be about, the house itself and the significance and things that obviously went on. And the first time that we heard about it. And just kind of the different stages of the way it looked along the year that we essentially had with it out here talking about this case. And, I'll take you through that tonight. But I just want to watch a little bit of this video here. I watched it live, but when you're watching it live, you're really not kind of watching it. You're kind of, paying attention to the chat. But again, if this is your first time over here, my name is Brian. This is the LTL True Crime YouTube channel, and we do true crime live streams. We follow a plethora of cases here. And, Idaho 4 is just one of them. We also follow the Free Karen Reed movement. I also have a very case that's very, very close to me, the Chelsea Grimm case, which is going to be awesome because tomorrow on my channel, I will have Steve from SF Investigates back live on the panel. He recently was just back out in Williams doing some more ground recovery and drone mapping missions, which I'm very excited for him to show what he has and what is going on in the area, if anything. So we're going to get that live tomorrow from Steve himself. He will be live here on the panel. I'm super excited and I cannot wait because we've all been yearning for Chelsea Grim updates. Again, there's plenty other cases that I've been following here, but those are really the major ones so far. So Tracy says, I don't think they should have demolished the house. I don't think so either, Tracy. It's just very sad. It's very sad overall. Yeah, I saw a little bit of that, Diane. I saw a little bit of that. Yeah, this drone footage was really great too. Not to be excited about it. I'm not excited in any way. I'm really distraught over it. And I can only imagine, especially what the Gonzalez family has gone through, their emotions through all of this. I'm sure it was highly emotion. That's it. That's the life in that house is gone. And I don't mean like, obviously we know 4 lives were taken, but everything that has happened, and I get it, I understand. I'm trying to pick my words in a sensitive way, but everything that has happened, even if it's just that one horrible memory is now erased in time, but all the good stuff that went on and the good energy that was in there, that's all gone now too. If that makes any sense, what I'm getting at. We went through horrible energy with that house, but all the other stuff that happened there before is now all gone as well too. I heard the wreckage or the rubble, I guess, is being highly guarded to prevent these morons that come in and try to take stuff and sell it. But I'm just very, very surprised at how quick this moved. I guess they really wanted to get this done in a day, and they did. And the ground is leveled, from what I've heard. It's on its way to becoming whatever it's going to be. I have my issues. I think, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to bring my presentation up here in a minute, but it's very nice to see everybody here Saturday night hanging out. We'll get into this tonight. And let me pull up my presentation. Let me present. All right. Again, it's going to be hard to watch the chat. I'll do my best here during the presentation. I'm going to bring myself wide out, I think, because it gives a better screen. Where is that view? Not that one, not that one, not that one. I just had it. Sorry, technical difficulties. This one, that one. All right, this is going to give a bigger screen. All right, so let's talk about, obviously, the King Road home is gone. Horrible. I think it was a dumb move. I think most of you here in the chat will feel the same way. And, my little subtitles in Nation Mourns, Idaho Student Murders. So what I wanted to do first is talk a little bit about the post that was on the Gonzalez family Facebook page, and maybe we can read through some of this here. So this is our family's statement that went out to the media yesterday. The house is set to be demolished today. Please pray for our family, as this is an extremely emotional day for us. Please stop the demolition of the King Road home. The Gonzalez family has reached out to Latah County Prosecutor's Office and the University of Idaho to stop this madness. Let's see, when the victims can't speak, you have to speak for them when you feel someone is hurting the case. So let's just answer the questions why the King Road house should stand for basic evidentiary purposes. That's interesting how that I wonder if there's going to be a motion file. I always look at all this stuff, why when stuff gets put out, things get said, things get spoken in kind of a lawyerish way. I'm wondering if Shannon Gray is preparing things behind the scene if and when this case finally concludes. There might be some motions or lawsuits. So what were the vantage points of the roommates, Dylan and Bethany? What could they hear from where they were in that house? Could they see how far was Dylan when she saw Brian Koberger? And why didn't he see her? Could the surviving roommates hear a dog barking from the third floor? Screams. Could you hear those same sounds from the bottom apartment? Great point. Outside the house, if evidence is presented about BK leaving or watching the house, what windows could he see in from where he was parked? Was he able to view the inside of the house? And what was going on from outside, sitting in a car, walking by? Goes towards premeditation. How long did it take for him to walk to his car? What points of entry could he have gotten into the house? 3, is there audio evidence? What can you hear standing outside the house? What can you hear inside the house? What was Xana's path to the house to pick up the DoorDash? What was Xana's path in the house? Did she have to walk past different rooms? Could she have walked past BK where he could have been hiding? It's a great point. Never thought of that. All the entry and exit points in the home. How could you get in and out without anyone seeing you? Where the deck's potential access points, the decks and landscapes feature are very close to each other. Any biological evidence? Where was it in the location of the house? Any proximity to the victims and any trails outside of biological evidence? If the house itself was a target, which was the theory from the beginning? Which is its supposed reason the University of Idaho called off their campus-wide warning while BK was still not apprehended? Why was the house a target and its access and exit points in the driveway configuration for a vehicle to enter, exit, turn around vantage points to other camera evidence pointed out towards the house? These are just things that the family has thought of, and no one seems to be able to answer about King Road House. The question is, if the home is demolished, will all of the questions be able to be answered later on with diagrams, models, technology? If they become an issue on trial, if not, then leave the home alone. Please get a trial scheduled. It is with disappointment and the frustration that we have to ask for this publicly. The court in this matter has delayed long enough. The hearing for the challenges to the indictment were in October, and the family court made a ruling in December on those charges over 45 days later. The court still has not made a ruling on the in-camera evidence that was presented on December 1st, 2023 regarding the genealogy evidence. It is also now our understanding that the defense has filed a motion for the court to reconsider the court's decision on the indictment challenges or stay the proceedings for appeal. This challenge will be giving another hearing date, another 30 days out. This was filed the day after the scheduled order and the trial was requested. All of this affects the families, and we cannot understand the constant delays. This case has to move forward. We are a year out, and the court just made a decision on the indictment. Now the court will have to make another decision to reconsider the decision the court just made, which took the court 45 days to decide. All along, still no trial date. We feel the University of Idaho and the court has put us in a horrible position to voice our opinions. We all along have just wanted the King Road home, all wanted the King Road home to not be demolished and for us to have a trial date so we can look forward to justice being served. That's really great. That's a really great statement. And there's a lot of valid points, tons of valid points. I heard some rumors that if the jury had requested to go, then Koberger would have the right to be there. And that could have caused a huge conundrum in that area. You would have to have security. You would have to, try to secure and hide the jurors' identities. It would have just been a big shitstorm. So I wonder if that had some decision in it. But I have my feelings about all of this, and you know how I feel. I feel this is a big cash grab, and we're going to talk about that tonight. So what I wanted to first do is show you what we remember the first images of King Road. So this is how we were introduced to that home. This is what it first looked like when that horrible day happened almost a year ago. And you're going to see the different stages of how the house looked with these photographs. So this photo was very, very early in the investigation, just a couple of days out. And then the house went to look like this when it was boarded up after the evidence, after the initial first signing off of the house happened. They had put a security guard in place, and eventually a security tower went in. They had a full 24-hour guard there. And this is how it stood for a very, very long time. I mean, it truly made it look like a house of horror. You have windows boarded up. The house is getting old. There's no heat running through it. There's no air conditioning. It's not being maintained. It just essentially started to die inside. The shell was holding it together, and the insides were just dying. And then we had these initial photographs here. A lot of this was the Idaho Statement and Fox News that sourced all these photographs, and we'll have a few of them here that we can walk through. It's right about where Lana's. She wasn't there. I think she had someone streaming for her, but that's right about where the position she had it. And it's crazy. You look and it still has all this, the memorial outside. I wonder if this retaining wall was taken down. I haven't been able to find any photos afterwards of the house itself and the lot. I'm sure probably, some of you have tracked it down. But we'll just wait there for a second. I just have to answer a quick tweet message. Sorry, just answering. I'm actually talking to Steve from SF Investigates as we are talking live to secure things for tomorrow. He said he's definitely coming on tomorrow, so that's great. We'll have, he said, look, I don't have much to update, but I want to hear about the drone mapping out there and kind of what he was doing. And if you're asking what I'm talking about, Steve from SF Investigates is going to come on tomorrow live with us and do an update on Chelsea Grimm. He recently was just out there doing some more recovery and drone mapping. So I'm excited to get Steve back on again. And it's been a while. We need to connect. Okay, so we move forward here again. Taking down that front section, and the house was just very strange. I mean, it was built in different stages along the way, and it was just a very odd design. And from what I heard, that Tara said the retaining wall is still there. Interesting. From what I heard in Chronicles, Olivia was talking about this in one of her last videos that she was out there. She said she took her mom there and said that, a lot of people don't realize the house is a lot smaller in person than you would think. And I referenced that back and I said, it's funny. The first time I ever went to Fenway Park to see the Boston Red Sox play, for years, I watched them on TV. And we're very famous for a wall in our ballpark called the Green Monster. And it's protects balls from going out of the ballpark. It's a very interesting ballpark. It's a very unique ballpark. And the first time I walked out of that tunnel to go up and grab my seat, I looked and I was like, oh my God, the wall looks so much smaller than it does on TV. And I'm sure it has that kind of effect with this. But it's very sad. I honestly thought that I don't know what it was, but I thought I would have the opportunity to walk by the home at some point during the trial if I was able to make it out there. And it's just it's a lot to take in. And I think they strategically did it. They crushed it the way they did it. They wanted to take it down from the roof down, so it would just block, everything that had gone on. If there was you know, anything left over, you wouldn't be able to see that. And they leveled it pretty quick. But it's sad. And this ultimately was one of the last photos as it's gone. That's it. Oh, these are just photos. It's no video here. Okay. And this was one of the final photos of that house. So let's talk about Scott Green. And I don't know why my headline is botched out there. Hang on. Let me see if I can fix that. Let me stop sharing my screen for a second. I'm just going to refresh my presentation in Canva, because sometimes when you do this, uh, it doesn't pull up the. Let me go back. Sorry. Okay, it's back. Good. All right, let's present again. Okay, let's go here. So we talk about the demo of 1122 King Road. This is from kxly.com. It was a headline that was put out on the 28th. It says University of Idaho's president's family once owned the home where the students were murdered. It's the weirdest thing. It's just really weird. I almost think that this was another big motivating fact for Scott Green, knowing that his family lived there. He didn't want this to keep going on his family's name. I think he was very greedy about it. And you can see I have the money there. I feel like this is a little bit of a cash grab. The issue that I have is, when something tragic happens and they want to construct a memorial, it usually is constructed in the spot that it happened at. They don't, you look at I use the 9/11 memorial as a point of reference. Okay. Where the memorial is where the Twin Towers were. So they took the absolute scale of what it was and they made those fountains, and it's in the same exact spot. They didn't pick it up and walk it 3 blocks down because they wanted it in Central Park because they knew there were going to be more people there. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like Scott Green is taking the liberty now. So, the point is, then why was the house donated to the university? Okay. And why is there not a memorial being made? They could have made a very nice park where people could have went in. They could have had a bench. They could have constructed something that had all of the 4 victims' faces on it. Something like that. You go in and you can pay your respects. I thought it would have been a nice tribute, a nice memorial. But we're going to take it now and move it on campus so everybody can go there to heal. It doesn't make any sense to me. And, I look at this article and it says the president of the University of Idaho, who guided the university through the trauma of the 4 murdered students last fall, has a family connection to the property where the murders took place. Scott Green has given speeches, interviews, and press releases, statements regarding the murdered students. And I love this quote. That's why I had to highlight this quote, because Scott, you're just taking in the emotional connection. It says it's a grim reminder of the heinous act that took place there. President Scott Green said in a news release announcing the demolition. While we appreciate the emotional connection some family members of the victims may have to this house, it is time to remove it and allow the collective healing of our community to continue. So you're going to move a memorial onto the University of Idaho so it even drags out more emotions every single day, where if it was just in the original spot, if people wanted the right to go there and walk by and maybe start putting some of that behind, yes, it will always be a reminder. We will never forget, but maybe it would ease people's, the students' stress, or the people that have to go through the university, ease their stress a little bit because it's not so up in their face. But now we're going to take it, we're going to move it onto the campus, and the healing garden. We're going to make this healing garden. So from KTV7, I pulled this article. It says King Road House demolished, crime scene where University of Idaho students were slain. The decision made by the University of Idaho has sparked controversy, particularly among some of the victims' families who contest the demolition. And essentially, it just goes on to say pretty much what I just said, but the demolition also removes the effort to further sensationalize the crime scene, Green added. So you're taking the crime scene and you're going to move it to the University of Idaho, which essentially, wouldn't that sensationalize the University of Idaho? So the university officials plan to construct a memorial called the Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial on campus in the memory of the victims. He said, I knew that we would have to create some kind of memorial, just some kind of memorial. Like he knew we had to create some kind, just some kind of memorial. We just kind of knew we had to do it to remember the four bright souls we lost. So we are creating a Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial. It's nestled in a quiet, secluded place surrounded by trees, said Blaine, I think it's Eccles, Dean of Students at the University of Idaho. We have our students in the art and architecture programs that are leading the way in gathering ideas and research for a design that could look like for that. I'm really excited to see what students are going to do with it. So you're kind of sensationalizing this back again, but you're just going to bring it on the campus and sensationalize it. And I get it. I think it's a nice tribute to the students to allow these students and do this in the art department, architecture department. But I have to say this, Scott, and I think you need to consider a few things here, or just really one major thing. The design of this memorial garden, this healing garden, should ultimately, in the end, be signed off by all four of those victims' families. And if you don't allow that to happen, and you don't allow them to get involved and have a say, then that's the ultimate tragedy here. Because that memorial is going to stand forever. And if you don't give the decency for these families to look at it and sign off and say, hey, you know what, it's a go, then I think it's a huge tragedy. Huge tragedy. It's another pin in the cushion of these families. Everything they've gone through to fight to get this house to stay. We don't even have a fucking trial. We don't even have a trial date. Let's tear it down. Tear the house down. All right. So I think it's cash grab. I think it's cash grab. Why? It's not at the actual site. We moved it on the campus. And what do people have to do when they travel in? And I'm going to tell you, this is going to bring in thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people there. There's so many people that are connected to this case. And right after this trial concludes, if it concludes and Koberger doesn't take a plea, but even if, when he concludes, you don't think that this is going to inspire people to go to Idaho? This is going to be one of the most worldwide, not even national, one of the most worldwide watched court cases of all time. I think it's going to crush O.J. Simpson. I think it's going to crush Johnny Depp. This will be one of the most viewed trials of all time. So, what is going to happen when that concludes? People are going to want to flock to Moscow. Moscow. I said Moscow because I was watching stuff on Moscow earlier. That Moscow, not this Moscow. But people are going to want to flock there. And what are they going to do when they come into town? They're going to have to eat. They're going to have a hotel or a camping ground or somewhere to stay, Airbnb. And then while you're there, old Scott's going to open it up and say, why don't you come on down? Visit the University of Idaho. Maybe your kids will want to come here. And you can come over and visit that healing garden, get a great tour of what's going on here. We have great academics here. We have great programs. Let's get that tuition up. Let's get that money flowing through the school. Is that what it is? I don't know. It just seems really odd to me. Really, really odd. And essentially, the house getting torn down becomes the seventh victim. And I know people might say you're crazy. It doesn't have feelings. It's not a human being, but it tells a story. And we haven't had the opportunity to tell that story yet. We haven't had a trial date. There may be things that we have to go back and reference. I was talking to Tsunami on the phone the other day. He said, hey, I know they went in and they did those digital scans of the rooms, with the Faro machine. Well, let's just say the laser was off. And they're in trial and they say, yeah, that window is 27 inches up, but the Faro is showing it at 30. How are you going to go back and reference that? Can't go back to the house. Fucking house is gone. Can't go there. So, hang on one second. I'm just doing some housekeeping. House is gone. I don't know what to do. All right, let's move on here. So after the house came down on the 28th, we watched it live here on LTL. We did about a 2-hour live stream and watched it go get demolished to the ground. And I'm sure that, a few of you over the last couple of days went through a bit of grieving. I'm sure that the family did as well. Of course they did. The families did as well. I'm sure there was grieving. And I looked at online today, and I just looked at, what are the stages of grieving? People talk about 5 stages at grieving. So first, like myself, I had denial, a lot of denial. This cannot happen. They're not going to do this. This is crazy. This would compromise the whole case. And then as it's happening, you have anger. That anger is building inside. We're kind of in that piss stage now. We're all angry. We're upset. How could you do this? We don't even have a trial date. And then we're going to go through a stage of like bargaining. And what that is, and I'm just going to read it really quick, is bargaining. This is when some people have, this is when some people who are grieving start to make deals with themselves or perhaps God. If they are religious, maybe they promise themselves that it's not allowed, that they are not always do or something. Believing in that could make the person or the thing come back, or maybe they believe it will stop anyone, or they'll do bad, or any other bad things that could happen. This sometimes is called magical thinking. People may also find that they keep going back over the past and lots of what if questions. We're getting there. We're getting into that what if stage. Wishing they could go back and change things so they could have turned So it could turn out differently. That's the scary thing that's all about this. The what if. What if we get into that trial and they have one of these what if stages? And then once you get past that, and I feel like that's kind of the top of the hill, you're going to go down and you're going to have a lot of depression from this. It's going to bother you. It's going to weigh on you. It's going to be on your mind. This is going to carry now all the way through trial. It's going to be that sinking feeling. God, what if they have to go back and reference something from that house and it's gone? And then after you go through that long depression, you may have a certain stage of acceptance. It is what it is. It's gone. You know, there's nothing that we can do. We can't bring it back. We can't build it back. This could be something like that. Okay. So it says, does it help to think of grief as having stages? We now know that talking about stages of grief may not be helpful for people if they think it means they should feel a certain way at a certain time, or that their grief will follow a set of order. This could mean that you are worrying, that you worry that you are grieving incorrectly, even though it's not right or the wrong way to feel when you're grieving. People sometimes describe grief as a journey, and you may be someone who finds it helpful to think of it as a journey with stages. The stages, excuse me, are then emotions which dominate how you're feeling at different times, but they will come and go, and they will not follow any set of orders. Since people started talking about the stages of grief, we've learned about them in many ways, understanding grief. And if you want to check out this, they have a nice website over there, Mary Carey. You can check this out. I just pulled a couple things from there, and it's interesting. It's interesting to think of that. So we'll move on. So was the other night I was watching the Investigation Room with Chris McDonough, and if you hadn't seen that episode, and I think everybody was in there, they were talking about on the live, and forgive me because I forget the doctor's name that was on that live with him, but it was the live was fantastic, and they were talking about if Koberger did this, tearing that home down elevates him. It completely elevates him. And I almost wonder if he was sitting in jail, and how ironic this is and how close he is to this home, that he's sitting in jail in the Latah County jail. And let's say they have a TV on, or he's watching on TV as this house is being torn down. So I just went back and thought, what would his reaction be? If he was the killer, what was his reaction right now? Was he twisting his mustache? Thank you. Thank you. Fantastic. Gary's fantastic. Was he twisting his mustache? Was Ann Taylor popping champagne? Was Thomas kind of second doubting? What was the emotions that the Gonzalez family were going through? It was probably heartbreaking. The Chapins, the Gnodals, the Mogans. So you had to think about all that stuff. What were their reactions in that very moment? It's probably horrifying. Koberger was probably smiling. So I said some things to think about. Definitely tearing the house down, in my opinion, helps the defense, because you can't go back to double check something now. It's gone. It's gone forever. The jury now can't walk through. And I think even Bill Thompson said there would be no need for the jury to walk through there. I don't understand that. Every single expert that I've heard, every lawyer that I've heard, Peter Tragos had a live with his father this afternoon and said he thought that it was a completely bad idea. I saw other experts bring this point up as well. Chris McDonough said it the other day as well. It was a horrible idea. And I just hope in the end, this doesn't come back to bite anybody. I really don't, because this might fuck the case up. You got to go back and get some measurements. So you got to go, and the jury goes, "Can we go see the house? House is gone, dude. He ain't going there." So I want to talk about this, and I thought this was interesting. This was talks about the first scheduled demo when it was essentially aborted. So June 27, 23, these are from Fox News, and the bottom article here is from News Nation, but the two top blue ones are Fox News. I just grabbed the headlines. Aerial video shows King Road house as crews work inside. The house at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, where the 4 university students were murdered on November 13, 2022, is slated for demolition. Work crews arrived Tuesday, but did not speak with journalists outside. You go to July 6th, University of Idaho to demolish home where 4 students were killed. Retired NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow says that he's surprised the prosecution is allowing the home to be raised before the trial for accused killer Brian Koberger. They were saying this back in July of 2023 when the first demo was supposed to happen. Experts were saying then this is a bad idea. Then on July 13th, we get notice. Idaho murder home house demolished, delayed until October. The house where the 4 college students were brutally murdered won't be demolished until October, according to the University of Idaho. It's going to be a problem. I'm going to show you why. Contaminated crime scene? You've just had people walk through that house. You had tarps up. People have seen what's inside that house. Now you delay it from being demolished. And guess what they did? Guess what they did in between the delay of this and just recently? What did they do? They've been back in that house. Again, it's going to be a win for the defense because now Ann Taylor can challenge all this. All that new evidence that was collected, we had them back in there on October 31st, the FBI, the prosecution. Then the defense went back. But Taylor now can go say all the evidence collected after the aborted June 23rd, June 2023 demo can be contested. It was a dirty crime scene. It was contaminated. People saw things. So now they can probably call those workers on the stand. What did you see? Did you tell anybody anything? Did you leak anything? Now I want to talk about a little bit about some things that we might have forgotten. I call it kind of like forgotten evidence. Remember this. Remember these things. So possibly some of the forgotten evidence, and I tried to put these in. Actually, I did put them in order as best as I could. So a lot of these were sourced out from Fox News. Remember on the 15th, 2022, trash removed near University of Idaho murder site. Police oversee the transfer of 2 trash dumpsters in Moscow, Idaho, at either end of the block where 4 students were murdered over the weekend. Derek Shook, amazing photographer. Seek out his work. He did a great job documenting that house. So remember that. They were over there and they watched the removal of 2 dumpsters. Then we had forensic teams dust for fingerprints, investigate home of University of Idaho students. Law enforcement dust for fingerprints at home of the 4 University Idaho students. who were found dead in their off-campus home on Sunday. Again, Derek Shook, killing it, putting in the work, doing a great job. More from Fox News. Agents running forensics in the kitchen of slain college students. Agents running forensics in kitchen of slain college students in Moscow, Idaho. Again from Fox News, another headline. Police expand their search for evidence in Idaho slayings. Investigators are seen in the back. This is November 21st. In the back of the house on King Road, they put kind. That's an error. As they expand their search for clues in the quadruple murder, University Idaho students. And I have these videos. I'll pull these up after. We can look at some of these. And then the handprint. Remember the handprint? December 3rd. They were all the way out there until December. Idaho murders handprint spotted next to evidence tape at house where 4 students were killed. This is from Fox News as well. Idaho police haven't released the crime scene and plan to continue holding the house. So these are a lot of things that I think people might have forgot about, that this is all potential evidence. More. January 3rd, investigators seen at King Road crime scene. Investigators are seen at King Road crime crime scene where 4 University of Idaho students were killed in early November. Crime scene reconstruction expert departs King Road crime scene. That was out on the 3rd. Crime scene reconstruction expert departs the house on King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He spent about 6 hours at the property, which was the scene of a quadruple homicide in November. So these are good things. I think there's a lot. And again, we talked about the Bluetooth speaker, possible connection. They still have Kaylee's laptops, her phone. And then we go into Koberger's apartment. CNN writes, newly released documents search of Brian Koberger's home, his office hours, and after arrest. Moscow, Idaho. Chemical tests for blood were done over 60 reddish-brown stains at Brian Koberger's apartment in Pullman, Washington on December 30th, hours after he was arrested in northern Pennsylvania, according to newly released legal documents. Documents show a reddish-brown stain on an uncased pillow, as well as a brown irregular drip found on a mattress cover. Both came back as preliminary positive for blood. I think a lot of people forgot about this. Thank you, Carrie. I think a lot of people forget about this. And then we have the Koberger warrants. Experts break down key evidence. Police, in this Fox News again, police seize knives, masks, computers, phone from his parents' house, but some evidence stands out. We knew about the IDs. Remember the IDs in a box and a glove? In a glove in a box? Oh, the conspiracy theories. We had to talk about these. So all the new ones. I like this. I was scanning the Facebook groups today. It's pretty funny, actually. We'll show some of those. So, yes, the tunnels. Remember the tunnels that were supposed to be under the retaining wall that came through? Well, there's no tunnels. And sorry to break everybody's good time or their theory. There's no tunnels. That's where the tunnel was supposed to be, remember? Under the retaining wall. It's where they came in. They came from the tunnels. And then more pictures of the wall. So that was that retaining wall. The retaining wall here. Here's the foundation. This is where the tunnels were. See, this is where the tunnels are. You see them? Another photo that surfaced that people were particularly very interested in on. They were saying that this was an access point, a trap door. That was hilarious. They think this is like a drinking flask. I don't see it. I mean, we can zoom in. Doesn't look like a drinking flask to me. It's looks like an electrical outlet with some wires running to it that fell out of the wall because you can see another one right here. See it? There's another electrical outlet. So these are just electrical outlets. And I'm sure with all the different additions and everything, there's so much electricity that ran through this place. This is where the excavator smashed through the wall. This is an electrical outlet. You can see the electrical hanging here. It's another cord that's running here. There's another cord behind it. And there's your outlet. A lot of piping and wiring. I mean, it's just because that house has been transformed so many times. But that was a good one. I like that. That was creative. And let's see. Let's go back to this one. This is the secret door that everybody's saying. It's literally a piece of sheetrock that fell down. It's a piece of sheetrock that was probably up here. It folded in half and fell. And there's better pictures of it out there, but that was supposedly the secret door that everybody was talking about. The secret doors, the tunnels, the secret doors. And that's really it for the presentation. But what I wanted to do is go back and look at some of those key evidence points that we talked about, the days that they were collecting evidence, because I thought the videos of those were pretty riveting. Let's see. That was the Pennsylvania warrants. This is this one was good. See if we can get it to play. Oh, go back, you son of a gun. Here. Oh, I hate this. This is the worst. Really concentrating on the windows. So it's like, hey, what if, you know? I'm gonna kind of answer this in a second. I'm gonna answer this. Really concentrating on that window. That's a DNA swab. Wow, look at this. Really detailing that window. Something very particular about that window. That window, I believe, is to the side where the balcony would be, so looking into the kitchen where that long extended balcony is from the street looking down, where you get kind of that's see that the balcony, that's from up on the street looking down into the yard. So essentially the back lot where they think Koberger came in is just right behind that. See, you remember, like, you forget all this stuff.
I need some sticky food.
And then it's like, what's there? What are they really, focusing on? What are they concentrating on there? Is it a tear in the screen? Is it a, fabric, or what are they looking at? Derek Shook, Fox Digital, great stuff. Let's look at a few more of them. I think I got a couple more here. I like going back and watching all these old. That's the kitchen. That's where the good vibe sign is. It's great footage.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Oh, come on, man. Where did they go?
The swabbing here.
Oh, wow.
Swab the floor.
You get the swab.
Where there could be blood. And then the guy's saying, cops are right there. Shh. And they're really concentrating that area. So I wonder if there was more footprints or blood droplets there. This is what I mean, is a lot of people, I think that people have to understand that, what you're hearing about in the PCA is just probable cause. You don't have every piece of evidence listed in that. And this case is being constantly investigated all the way through up until when they go to trial. They find new things out. And I think there's going to be a lot more DNA and a lot more blood evidence. And the digital forensics are going to be mind-blowing in this case. I really feel like they got the goods. If they didn't have they didn't have the goods on this guy, and Ann Taylor could get up there with certainty tomorrow and defend her client and have her team get up there and certainly defend her client, then why are they not at trial? Why are they continuing to delay the process? It's got to make you think. And you Koberger deniers, tell me, why are they delaying? If she's so certain and he's so certain that he's excited to get exonerated, then why not go to trial? Why are you waiting and delaying everything? Why the half-assed, just the alibi, driving around? My client likes to take long drives at night, but he wasn't particularly with anybody. He wasn't particularly going anywhere. Well, that sounds a lot like the killer was doing that night, take a long drive. So why are we continuing to delay this? And they just put another motion out there to delay it. And if you want to hear more of the legal term on that, advise you to go over and watch The Lawyer You Know. Him and his dad explained everything in more legal term and broke it down. I'm not a legal expert, but to me, it's another delay. And just like the Gonzalez family said, things are now going to get delayed 45 days. And the next Koberger hearing, and I'm going to tell you right now, is they have a hearing scheduled on. Koberger will be back in court on January 26, 2024. It's a motion hearing. Got it right here. So that's the next time. We're a month out. And then what's going to happen when we get in that motion? Is it going to get delayed again and delayed again? I think the judge is going to say, we're going to trial. I think Taylor's going to throw the whole kitchen sink in there again. And Judge is going to say, this is creative. It's great. It's nice. We're going to trial. We're ready. Let's do this. It needs to be done. No more delays. What do we got here? Another. Did we play this one? We played this one, right? Yeah, we just played that. I got another one here. Let's talk about the Pennsylvania warrants real quick. Remember the Pennsylvania warrants? Let's see. Pennsylvania warrants. Remember this? Play this from Fox News real quick.
Let's go to Mercedes Coleman. She is on the phone with us as well. Mercedes, I don't know how much of a chance you've had to go through this affidavit for a search warrant. Again, one of the things that I thought was very curious is that they're looking up internet. They're looking to see if Koberger had any internet searches to review other murders or violent assault, stabbings, or cutting of other people, as well as how to avoid detection after the commission of such crimes. I mean, obviously, the indications are that this was premeditated. Is this a standard thing that police do with a search warrant, or could this be specifically keyed to some information that they may have about Koberger?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. First, it really is about what they're used to routinely do in these types of cases. They're going to look for digital evidence. There's a treasure trove that exists. Are there direct messaging to any of the victims? There had been reports early on that he had already been connected to at least Kaylee Gonzalez. That's what Mr. Gonzalez, her father, had said early on, that there may have been some connection.
I've never heard
and
that.
Connection could certainly be.
Where was that? I've never heard that interview. Where's that interview? Was it like a recorded interview, or was it in a paper? I mean, there's been so many interviews. Where was that? 48 hours? Oh, can someone get me the clip of it? I can't play the whole thing because I can't even play 48-hour stuff. They'll nail my stream, which is so weird.
Be established through social media, direct messaging that can happen on various platforms there. But looking at the digital evidence, if it is a connection that he has with some,
yeah, but you have to think here. Okay, the dude had 30 days to clean that car, and what did he clean it with? He cleaned it with bleach, and you still don't know if they found any DNA in that. Everything has been sealed. So this is the thing that people have to understand. There's so much pieces of evidence. There's so many things that went behind the scenes in this case. It's all sealed. It's all sealed. You don't know. I don't know. But we're going to find out. We can use logic and say he had almost 30 days to clean that car. He's been seen cleaning it with bleach. So that kind of tells you something. But everything has been sealed, so we don't know what they found. And I know you're going to go back and talk about the 8 hours. I don't know. I wasn't there. But we're going to find out. And if you're going somewhere where you think, a trove of people went over and killed all these kids, you're wrong. Sorry, you're wrong. Because put it this way, someone would have been arrested by now. Other people would have been arrested by now. We're a year out. And I'm sorry. If I'm Brian Koberger and I've been sitting in a cell for over a year and I have the opportunity, and I'm pretty sure the state has gone to him and said, hey, if there's anyone else involved and you rat them out or you give them up, you're only going to go to jail for 30 years. I'm just hypothetically saying here. Or, I don't know, if it was just me and I was innocent and I'm on trial for a quadruple homicide, I'd probably be on the tallest mountain screaming at the top of my lungs saying, I didn't do this, dude. I'd probably be talking to every single news organization how I'm being falsely accused right now. Or if I knew that there was going to be some kind of deal and I know that they do have the goods on me and I could give up a couple of people to ease the pressure off me, probably would do it because I'm facing the firing squad right now. So we got to use some logic here. We got to use some logic. All right, let me play this here.
Of background in criminology. A lot of that he's already probably done, studied in school. But what they're mostly focusing in on, and whether or not there was anything regarding disposing of evidence, some concealing of evidence. We know that the butchery was so extreme, and there must have been a significant cleanup after the murders. And we know how these poor individuals, these kids were murdered, which is just devastating just to think about it. It was such extreme butchery. So they're looking for digital evidence about what do you do? How do you clean your car? The fact that he left there and drove in his car, and by all accounts, all the experts say that he must have been covered in the victim's blood. He's now allegedly driving back to his home if he is indeed the killer. How do you clean up the car? That digital evidence is perfect because, frankly, you and I and the rest who have not committed these horrendous crimes would ever conceivably think about looking up that information in the digital airwaves. But someone who's committed this butchery could conceivably start to look into that.
Mercedes, just digging through here.
So we'll have to see where it goes from there.
And perhaps this is repeating what we had, but some further detail. This application says that
Sure.
his home had a significant amount of blood from the victims, including spatter and cast-off blood. That's a direct quote. Investigators believe that it was likely that the killer would have had blood evidence on his body or clothing, and they had hoped to find this trace evidence in Koberger's apartment. Your thoughts on that?
Well, and I mean, that's such key evidence because there's no conceivable way that the blood of these poor victims will be found in his home. So they're looking for that. Even the dog hair. We had a dog that was present during the killing of Kernodle. The dog hair if that dog hair exists in his home, that
I want to
is
go back
key
and listen to that
evidence to see
again.
where it goes from there.
And perhaps this is repeating what we had.
Drove in his car, and by all accounts, we know how these poor individuals, these kids were murdered, which is just devastating just to think about it. It was such extreme butchery. So they're looking for digital evidence about what do you do? How do you clean your car? The fact that he left there and drove in his car, and by all accounts, all the experts say that he must have been covered in the victim's blood. He's now allegedly driving back to his home if he is indeed the killer. How do you clean up the car? That digital evidence is perfect because, frankly, you and I and the rest who have not committed these horrendous crimes would ever conceivably think about looking up that information in the digital airwaves. But someone who's committed this butchery could conceivably start to look into that.
Mercedes, just digging through here.
So we'll have to see where it goes from there.
And perhaps this is repeating what we had, but some further detail. This application says that
Sure.
his home had a significant amount of blood from the victims, including spatter and cast-off blood. That's a direct quote. Investigators believe that it was likely that the killer would have had blood evidence on his body or clothing, and they had hoped to find this trace evidence in Koberger's apartment. Your thoughts on that?
Well, and I mean, that's such key
People
evidence
forget the
because there's no
details.
conceivable way that the blood of these poor victims will be found in his home. So they're looking for that. Even the dog hair. We had a dog that was present during the killing of Kernodle. The dog hair was, if that dog hair exists in his home, that is key evidence that can be used against him.
Right. But, anything to connect him to actually being in the apartment, because at the moment, what we have is a tremendous amount of circumstantial evidence that, as we have seen in the past, some high profile cases that seem to have a preponderance of circumstantial evidence fall apart when they get to the jury. Mercedes, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right. I'm going to go back to someone asked about what they found at Koberger's house. I have a video on that. We'll go back and watch that as well. I'm thinking about doing another looking back, looking back series. I think we need to refresh on that. But do me a favor real quick. I see a buddy of mine in the chat, and he is so close to getting monetized on his YouTube channel. He needs 25 more subscribers. So if 25 of you can click on that link, and just subscribe to that channel. This is a buddy of mine that is a hip hop artist in the area. His work is great, and he's actually going to be doing my theme song for me. So let's get him to 1,000 subscribers tonight. Just smash that subscribe button over there. We just need 25 people to do it, and there's more than 25 people in here. I would appreciate it. He would appreciate it. It gets his channel monetized, gets him going. I enjoy his music. I have for a long time. All right. I'm going to check back in by the end of the show. Let's get him to 1,000. Let's get him over 1,000 so we can get monetized on that channel. He deserves it. He's been in the game for a long time. Thank you, Holly. And I'm telling you, just check his music out. You're going to love it. He said it's written. He just needs to get in the studio and record it. That's awesome. So he's got the theme song down. It's going to still be the same beat that I used to come in, but he's actually going to rap over it. And by the way, the beat that I use is actually, he said the producer or the guy that makes his beats is the same guy too, which is interesting. But I'm going to do a check-in here in about 5 minutes. He's at 981. Let's get him to 1,000 tonight. We can do that. 980. It's easy. If you do that, I'll drop some memberships. Get him to 1,000. I'll drop some free memberships in the chat. Let's get Massacre over there. All right, let's play this. Koberger's house.
Upcoming program, Tribunal Justice, on Amazon Freevee, and also the host of the podcast, The Tanya Acker Show. Okay, Judge, I'm so glad you're here because you know this business of warrants being executed, the timing of them, the sealing of them, the unsealing of them. Do you have any idea or any sort of thoughts as to why they would hold this sealed for the 60 days? Like, what benefit advantages it to the Pennsylvania folks to keep this under seal? They're not part of the gag order.
Well, I think that if you're prosecuting this case, Ashley, you want to control the narrative.
Carrie's going to drop 5 and I'm going to drop 5. Let's get him monetized. Let's get him to 1,000 so we can turn on that monetization. He deserves it. We're at 985. I need 15 more. 15 more. I'm going to drop 5 memberships. Carrie's going to drop 5.
You want to control the story. And that means, to some extent, controlling the dissemination of information. We're still in very early days when it comes to really setting out the narrative and telling the story of how these crimes happened.
Thank you.
The blow by blow that the jury is eventually going to hear. So to the extent that one can limit the information that goes out into the public before the lawyer has the chance to kind of steer that information and put it into the context that they want, that's really part of the strategy, I think, and the theory behind, wanting to continue with the gag.
No problem. We're going to get you there tonight, believe me.
So I wanted to ask you sort of a small detail. I don't know if there's anything to be made of this or not, but in the list, and I'm going to ask the control room if they can throw that list up again of all the things that they seized that finally we discovered today when they unsealed the warrant. They listed, a flashlight and 4 medical gloves And then all these things that look like they were just things he was wearing: a white t-shirt, a black sweatshirt, a pair of socks, a pair of size 13 sneakers, black shorts, black boxers, and a buckle swab. Why? I'm trying to make some sense out of the flashlight and the 4 medical style gloves being lumped in with what looked like basically what was on Brian's person.
I don't know why the warrant would be drafted in this way, but again, Ashley, it goes to the point that I just made. What the prosecution needs to do here is to tell the story. And so you tell a story about a defendant, a murderer, who has a flashlight. He kills folks with gloves. He's wearing all black. Remember, the roommate of one of the victims recalled that she'd seen someone in the early hours of the morning of the murders wearing all black. So connecting that black-clad murderer to this defendant is an important part of the prosecution's story. So it really is about buttoning up all these little details so that when you're standing in front of the jury, you can give them specific points, specific facts, little things that tie this defendant to the crime. And that's what they're trying to do here.
So I just need 10 more subscribers, 10 more people in here. Just go over and click that subscribe button on that link I just posted. I want to get my friend monetized. And he's so close. We need to get him monetized. And then when we do that, we're going to drop a bunch of free memberships. So everybody has free memberships. They get exclusive access to all the membership only content. Let's go.
Let me ask you about the size 13 sneakers.
Come on, buddy.
I sort of like that. I seized on that right away. And I thought, look, I don't know a lot about men's shoes, but I asked my husband, you're about a size 10 and a half. Isn't that kind of normal? It turns out that size 10 and a half is standard, sort of the most average shoe size across America. And then I asked one of our staff members to do some research.
Thanks for the
and
5 on Buy Me a Coffee. I appreciate
it. A study showed that size 12, 13 represent only 10% of shoe sales for men across the country. To me, that sounds like a really good piece of evidence, because there is that latent shoe print found in blood in the victim's home. So put those pieces together for me and tell me why that might be super critical.
Well, again, look, you're standing in front of the jury if you're the prosecutor, and you're going to say, look at this bloody footprint in the home, which is also matches the defendant's shoe size, which is not, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, a very common shoe size in the United States. Again, it's about trying to connect the dots and giving the jury compelling bits.
Let's do this real quick. Let's do this real quick. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. 5 coming in. Massacre, you are officially over 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations, man. When you need help, if you need help, getting all your stuff turned on, just reach out to me, John. I'll help you out. Just reach out to me. Carrie, thank you for the 5. Welcome to the membership. We got Debbie, Dandy, SRB, Dandy again, Sis. Let's see. We got Tara, Patsy, Melissa, WV, Sands. Welcome to the membership group. And those are free memberships. So how those work is it's a month. You get a month. It's a $4.99 membership. Okay. What I ask you to do is when that gift membership ends, all I need you to do, you don't even have to sign up for $4.99. I have a $1.99 level. Just re-sign back up at the $1.99. That still gives you access to all the exclusive content on here. And it helps continue supporting the channel. I'm trying to be a full-time creator by the end of 2024. So by this time next year, I want to be free of my corporate job and be a full-time creator. All right, let's play this.
Of specific information that tie this defendant to the crime. That is one such specific piece of information.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like whenever people say, just a circumstantial case, I want to like slug them,
You have to
because
turn on gift
all
membership.
cases that I cover are pretty much circumstantial. You rarely get a witness to, you know, a murder. I mean, you get them, but not that often. So most cases that we deal with in American jurisprudence, it oftentimes is circumstantial, and it can be extraordinarily strong, sometimes better than a eyewitness was Mr. Magoo. So in that respect, if you have so many of these pieces, it just becomes less and less reasonable to assume that it's not the guy. Maybe one or two, you could say that's unreasonable to leap to the conclusion, but like 10 or 15, it gets to the unreasonable. All right, last question real quickly, and that's about this gag order in Idaho. I've just been ranting away at the amount of secrecy in the Idaho courts. And I'm not just talking about the Idaho, you know, the Moscow, Idaho murders. I'm talking about Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. They just seem to do this like it's Tuesday. I mean, it's just standard op. And I have been under the impression that that's not the way we operate, that it should be a last resort.
Shelly, thank you so much for the
$7.99. Are you seeing that this is increasingly the way courts are operating everywhere? Is Idaho unique? Like, what's your read?
I don't know, Ashley, that I have a specific read, but what I will say is that there is a lot of concern amongst decision makers, and not just decision makers, but legal players about the effect of pretrial publicity, pretrial talking, social media posts. You know, people, you've got to still go and get your jury, and you want a jury that has been as untainted as possible. Now, I hear the concern, and I think you raise a really good point that the public has an interest in knowing how our judicial system works, and in knowing that, you know, how the process is moving forward. But I do think that, and again, you know, I don't have any specific comment on whether or not this is becoming more or less common, but I do think that many people now who are participants and players in the system are just worried about being able to control the narrative, because information gets out there so quickly, and it can be spun so quickly by either side, or frankly, you know, somebody who perhaps doesn't even have a direct interest in the case, that you know, there is a concern about getting the reins on that.
Thank you for watching.
All right. Do y'all want me to keep going? Because I can keep going. Because I have another video I can queue up. It's a long one, but I have another video I'd like to play. If you want me to keep going, let me know. We'll play it. I can be here for a little while. All right, let's play this. I saw this come out today, and hang on a second. Yes, let's go. All right, let's go. All right, there's a new series that came out on Law and Crime Network. It came out this afternoon, and it talks about where Bryan Kohberger's case stands 1 year after his arrest. So let's do it. I'll hang out. Let's go.
Community is healing. Community is how we carry on together.
It was a crime that rocked a small college town and captured the attention of the world.
It's horrible. Anybody watched this yet? This is new. This just came out a few hours ago. I watched it today. It was great. Okay. Do you mind if we're going to rewatch it? I haven't watched it yet. I saw a little bit of it today. This is new. All right, let's go.
Crime has affected all of us.
4 University of Idaho students murdered in a house near campus.
These girls were absolutely beautiful. They had been friends since 6th grade. It's a shame, and it hurts.
Some feared the murders of Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle would never be solved. Who would want to hurt these 4 students sleeping in their house? The answer, police would later say, was this man.
This is State of Idaho versus Brian C.
He looks good in orange, doesn't he? He looks good in orange, doesn't he?
Kohberger.
Bryan Kohberger, a PhD
Rachel,
student.
thank you for the 5 super sticker. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you.
in criminology who lived 10 miles away. But why? That's just one of so many questions that remain more than 1 year later as we remember the 4 Idaho students taken too soon. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thank you for joining us as we remember the 4 University of Idaho students senselessly murdered in Moscow, Idaho, more than a year ago. It's been 1 year since police made an arrest in the case. Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle had their entire lives ahead of them. But on November 13th, 2022, their lives were taken, police say, by this man, Brian Koberger, a criminology PhD student who lived 10 miles away across the Washington state line in Pullman. As we look back a year later,
Andrew, what do you got? Is that a Nova or a Falcon? I can't see. What is that? Is that a Nova or a Falcon for your icon? What you got? I'm probably way off. Tell me what you got.
Want to remember the 4 victims by telling you who they were, what we know about the investigation, the evidence, and what lies ahead.
No matter where you find yourself tonight, the Vandal family is here. And on this day, across all of Idaho, we are all Vandals.
Students, fellow classmates of Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle came together on a lawn at the school in Moscow this past November 13th to remember their friends 1 year later.
Maddie was a bright person. She had a bright smile.
Oh, cool.
She had a bright future. Maddie was bright. She was bright in every way that a person could be. Maddie was the kind of person that made sure everyone felt welcomed and cared for. It was nearly impossible to not be smiling when you were around her.
I am reminded every day to live like Kaylee would. Be more spontaneous, stop and take pictures, be loud, laugh loud, and love hard. May we all work hard to be more like Kaylee.
The students also want to try to start the difficult process of healing as they grieve the loss of their friends.
A beautiful aura followed her everywhere she went. There was always a smile on her face. She was a very contagious person. Xana was one of those people that you could not possibly be sad around. She made friends feel unapologetic for being themselves.
He so effortlessly put anyone and everyone around him in a good mood. These traits are something I strive to obtain every single day.
A little more than a year ago, on November 12th, 2022, everything seemed normal in Moscow, Idaho. The leaves were changing colors. It was nearly a perfect warm fall day. Students Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin posed for a photo with 2 roommates before the big football game.
Back to the formation. Vandals return to the Big Sky.
And that's his first rushing touchdown of the season.
Later that night, Xana and Ethan went to a party at his fraternity, Sigma Chi, just a few blocks from the home where she lived with Maddie, Kaylee, and 2 other young female students.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thanks. I would like the car, but not.
That night, a Twitch video from the grub truck recorded Kaylee and Maddie ordering food around 1:30 a.m. after hanging out at the Corner Club bar.
Cool. Thank you.
Maddie and Kaylee hung out for a few minutes, doing what college kids do, looking at Kaylee's phone, at one point taking a selfie. Minutes later, the lifelong friends walked away, a guy in a white hoodie trailing behind. Kaylee and Maddie took a rideshare home. The driver told me he had driven Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana home many times. He said they were all nice, happy, friendly girls. That morning, he dropped off Kaylee and Maddie just before 2 a.m. Police would later say Xana received a food delivery at 4 a.m. and her phone showed she was on TikTok at 4:12 a.m. A short time.
Ooh. I've never seen this before. I think it's going to be interesting. There's a bunch of little nuggets in here. Also, I think this is great for people that are new to the case, which is strange, but there are some new people to this case. I just did a live the other night when I had Kimmy on, and we talked about the Bluetooth connection. And there were people in there that were like, I've never heard about this case before. So I think this is a great refresher. This will get everybody caught up to speed. And the good thing about it is we have well-educated people here that are in the chat room that can help educate the people here that might not know a lot about it. So while we're watching this, if there's any newcomers to this trial and they don't know much about it, throw your questions in the chat, because there are people here that are super educated about it and they can help you. You know, let's guide them and get them familiar with this case. All right, let's keep playing here.
After that, Moscow police believe Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana were attacked and killed. Hours later, 2 roommates awoke. Then came a call to 911, and the home on King Road that had been the scene of so many parties became a crime scene.
We know that the autopsies confirmed the identity of the 4 victims, determined the cause and manner of death as a homicide by stabbing, and determined that it was likely all 4 victims who were asleep during the attack.
See?
Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times. There was no sign of sexual assault.
Based on details at the scene, we believe this was an isolated, targeted attack on our victims.
The brutality of this crime in this small college town of 25,000 was unbelievable.
It was so scary. We were just like, who could have done this? So yeah, it was a lot of fear. It was so sad. And then you saw the photos of those beautiful, young people over and over and over again.
Cindy Hollenbeck lives in Pullman, Washington nearby and has 2 college-age children.
This is a place where we don't lock our doors, and I started locking, checking every single night. I was in so much fear.
People around the state of Idaho started following the story, and then around the world.
It was so senseless. These young adults were in the prime of their lives, and that last photo that has made kind of rounds of all of them smiling and standing outside really, I think, sticks in people's minds as well. And we're all still grieving the loss.
But who would stab these 4 students, and why? Stabbing is such a personal crime, and
you have to be so close to do it.
Dr. Angela Arnold is a psychiatrist who has followed the case. She tried to figure out what could motivate someone to attack Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana in their home in the middle of the night and stabbing all 4 in possibly a short amount of time.
I also have to wonder, when someone does something like this and it's so brutal, how much of a sexual undertone it has to it and what kind of sexual pleasure he got from performing this.
As the days and weeks passed, it seemed as if police had little to go on. It would be a daunting task, trying to figure out who killed the 4 students. The house where the murders happened was on Greek Row, just off campus.
Not a lot of cars, a ton of foot traffic.
You're just coming in. We're watching a new episode that was released today from the Law and Crime Network with Anjanette Levy. And it's essentially taking us back through the history of the case, which I think it's a fantastic special so far. So I wanted to, at the beginning of the stream, I did my presentation. I had this kind of on the back burner. I asked everybody in the chat, did you want me to keep going? Do you want me to keep streaming? They're like, yes. So that's what we're doing now. And I think this is a fantastic episode so far. We're going to really get some new information, I think, too. And really, really good so far. All right, let's keep playing.
A lot of students like to live over here and then just walk to classes.
Max Kime lived directly across the street from the house on King Road and spoke to police several times. The officers asked Kime about noise coming from the house.
Lots of partying going on in Moscow, Idaho.
Lee, thanks for the 5 on Buy Me a Coffee. I appreciate the support. Thank you.
So if there was a lot of yelling and screaming, I'm sure I slept right through it because there always is.
What's going on, Isaiah? I'll be back to work soon, buddy. I'm
Days after the
I'm still messed up, but I'll be back to work. I got some health stuff I need to get taken care of, but I'll be back there soon. I'll see you, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. I hope everybody's well. I hope you're well. It's one of my coworkers. I hope you're well. Hope everybody's well. But I will be back on the 1st, and I'll see everybody. I still have some things I need to take care of, though. It's not good, but I'll tell you about it when I get back to work.
The murders.
Sorry,
Family and friends of Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana gathered to pray and to remember them.
Maddie May, she was the first grandkid of any of her grandparents. She was Karen and my only child that we ever had.
Maddie Mogan's father, Ben, said she was a hard worker who made the dean's list every semester. Her family said she loved anything pink and sparkly, and she was loved.
And she was just such a happy, such a great kid, such a perfect little baby, and so just smart and funny and beautiful.
Maddie was a member of the Pi Beta Phi sorority, where she had many friends who loved her.
She was easily the best person that I knew. She loved everyone around her more than life. She loved her mom. She always told me, "Don't you think my mom's so cute and so pretty?"
Kaylee's parents also took the stage to talk about her and Maddie.
I want everyone to know these girls were absolutely beautiful. They've been friends since 6th grade. So then they went to high schools together. Then they started looking at colleges. They came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together. And in the end, they died together in the same room, in the same bed.
Ethan Chapin was a triplet. His siblings, Maisie and Hunter, attended the University of Idaho with him. His mother, Stacy, talked.
I'm just going to pause it real quick and just give a little bit of my feelings so far. And I've talked about this before. You know, the thing that people don't understand, because we're only watching these people through videos and photographs. We don't know them personally. Now, I know I have a pretty steady follower that emails me every now and then, and she lives in and around the area where Steve and Christy live. And they go into a particular bar that they're always in. I believe that JLR went there once and actually met Steve. But she emails me every now and then and gives me a little bit of an update and says, you know, hey, I saw Steve and Christy at the bar. You know, they didn't look good, you know, or whatever. They were looking happy, you know, and I, you know, just saw people chatting with them. She doesn't know them like directly, but I think that she's maybe talked to them at some point, or at least seen them in there. So my bigger point is that people don't understand what this does to families. You know, when my best friend was murdered, it tore his family apart. His mom and stepdad separated, and you know, this crushes family because you deal with a lot of guilt and always the what if and why, you know, or could we have. That stuff goes through your brain. And you know, we look at these families through videos and photos. They're not in front of us living flesh human beings. So I think there's a little bit of detachment for people. But the thing is that their lives stop and like our lives go on. When something tragically happens like this, they have to live this every single day. This doesn't stop for them. You know, and this will not stop until the trial. And then they're going to go through another stage of grieving after the trial. And hopefully the trial goes their way. You know, hopefully Brian Kohberger is convicted of these murders. You know, I've been pretty open about how I feel about him. I think that the evidence is very strong against him. And I think there's going to be a lot more that comes out. But that's the overall point. I think that's why people trash the shit out of these families and spark up these evil streams and talk about these people, because you're not standing in front of them. And I always say, what would you do if these families were standing in front of you? Would you say the same thing? You know, or go, oh yeah, I'd say the same thing. I think you would think differently, because then you have to turn around and say, what if it was your daughter or your son, or, you know, a brother, a sister, or whatever it is. You know, so just things to think about. All right, let's keep playing through.
Talking about the memories the family shared.
We surfed and spent countless hours in our boat listening to country music, which was Ethan's most favorite thing in the whole world. We hiked.
Yeah.
Typically, the kids did that reluctantly, I'll admit.
Hi, my name is Xana Kernodle.
Xana Kernodle was Ethan Chapin's girlfriend and a roommate of Maddie and Kaylee. Like Ethan, she was only 20 years old. She was majoring in marketing. By all accounts, Ethan was Xana's first boyfriend.
He had such an infectious smile and a charismatic personality. And if you knew anything about Xana as well, they were very similar in how they acted together.
Gripped with fear, many students went home to finish the semester online. Others stayed in their dorms, going to class on Zoom. Was a person capable of killing 4 people, walking among them? Who was it? And would he ever be found? There were just too many questions unanswered for anyone to feel truly safe. Coming up, inside the search for a killer and how police say they tracked down the man who murdered 4 students with a retired FBI agent and a death investigator. You are watching Law and Crime.
I'm happy with this episode so far. It's great.
The house on King Road had gone from a happy place with a good vibe sign hanging on the wall where college kids made memories to a horrific crime scene in a matter of hours, maybe even minutes.
Oh no, I don't
Stabbed
think
with
that's
a
going to
knife,
happen.
but no weapon has been located at this time. There was no sign of forced entry into the residence.
It's not going to happen.
The Moscow Police Department, with just 36 officers, had an overwhelming task ahead of them as they tried to figure out who killed Maddie Mogen, Kelly Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana
They always
Kernodle.
screw Kaylee's name up. They always say Kelly. She always says Kelly.
So where do police begin?
This actual slaughter that took place. So it is a huge, huge undertaking.
Veteran forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan has followed the murders in Idaho closely from the beginning. Morgan describes the challenges of investigating the 3-story house on King Road.
For anybody that's had a collegiate experience where there's off-campus housing involved, many times there's an open door policy, particularly if you've got multiple roommates.
Hey guys, Moscow PD.
Shit. I'm going to pause that.
Be open
right.
at all times at the house on King
I
Road.
get whacked.
Hello, miss. What's your name?
Xana.
Xana, do you live here?
Yes.
Go
The
past
house
this.
where Xana, Kaylee, and Maddie lived with their 2 roommates was a popular party house.
Remember this the other night when we went through the Bluetooth speaker, and that could be possibly the Bluetooth speaker?
After the murders, several body camera videos.
Right there. I don't know if was everybody in here for my episode on the Bluetooth speaker when I did a couple episodes on that, and then we had Kimmy come on and she told us about how Bluetooth works. Was everybody in here for that? Have you seen those videos? Let me just get a temperature check here in the chat room. Yes. Okay. Yes. Good. Because that could be the speaker. We don't know. It could be. Good. You missed it. Oh, Nikki, you got a few to go back through. Let me do this really quick. If you haven't watched them, I had an aha moment. And it spontaneously came in one of my, and I'm going to drop that video to educate you on what we came up with. So you can watch that one. And then I would say watch this one. I'm going to drop this. And then the live that you're going to want to watch afterwards is this one. This will get you all caught up on a theory that no one has talked about. We heard about it back in February, but no one has talked about it. All right, Nikki, you got a couple videos you need to watch there. All right, let's go. Let's play this.
From Moscow police surfaced, showing officers went to King Road several times after neighbors called, complaining about noise coming from the house.
We're only here for a noise complaint. Come to the damn door.
Kaylee Gonsalves spoke to the officers nearly 3 months before she, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana were murdered.
You know why we're here?
I assume noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Big speaker right there.
It's going to blow your mind.
Because this is such an involved scene, and I don't know if I can impress upon viewers how extensive this thing is. When you're talking about a multi-story dwelling.
Morgan says the 3-story house was like a petri dish when it comes to DNA and other vital evidence that could point to a suspect or suspects.
And you might have, parties and get-togethers all together, but then you have these collections of people that are coming in, and of course they're depositing everything that they bring from outside with them. So it's not just to the exclusion of that individual's personal DNA. Anything else relative to trace evidence, you begin to think about hair.
You're talking about me tonight, Tanya. Tanya's worried because, okay, well, we'll do this tonight. All right. So everybody here, I'm going to fill everybody in on the drama, okay? You want some YouTube drama. She wants to go public with it. She's talking about it on her channel. So we'll talk about it here. Okay. So I'm sure that you all know that I've done my presentation about how Tanya copies me all the time. So Tanya thought that she was going to stick her nose in Chelsea Grim's case because Tanya likes to come to my channel and watch everything I do. And I hope that she's watching. So Tanya right now, someone just tipped me off. She's talking about me on her channel right now because Tanya's worried. Okay. And the only thing that matters to Tanya is subscribers and views. And she expressed that many, many times in emails. So when her and I had some back and forth about Chelsea Grim, she said that the reason that I'm coming at her about this was because my channel gets no views and no subscribers. Well, Tanya, and I'm going to look at the camera, you motivated me. And I worked harder than you, and I put in the work, and I actually have guests on my show. That's why my channel does better than yours. I don't go out and take people's stuff and not credit them like you do, like you did with Chelsea Grim when you came here and said and admitted, I don't even have the case file, but you did your presentation. And, oh, how did you have the case file word for word where you stole it off my channel to present it as your research in the Chelsea Grim case that it was never printed in any newspaper, was never printed in any article. And she thought that she was going to try to go and outsmart me on this one. And put in the FOIA request after we got everything, the body cam footage, the full case file. And she wanted to go and run with the Chelsea Grim case now. She took the file and typed it in her own handwriting and did her presentation and put it up there with her watermark on it and said, this was my research. And then she called me and said, your channel gets no clicks and views. And she says that I'm jealous of her. Tanya, do you see the audiences that I poll? You think I'm jealous of you? My channel gets no clicks and views. In 48 hours, I've had 30,000 views on my channel. In 48 hours, I've smoked past you in subscribers. So if you want to go there about subscribers and views, so you're worried now because my channel is growing faster. And the reason it grows faster is this. 1, I'm not boring. 2, I put together fantastic visual presentations for the audience that comes here to visit this channel. 3, I actually really care about what I'm doing here. 4, I seek out and build relationships with people to have fantastic guests on my panel, unlike you do. So however you want to run your show and be boring, that's fine. But you're upset now because you had a Chelsea Grim stream scheduled for tonight, and you were going to go on and update everybody by reading the tweets of Steve, SF Investigates. But guess what? I got Steve coming on my show tomorrow because I put in the work and I build trust and relationships with people. That's why they like coming to LTL True Crime. That's why people like coming here and enjoying the show. And I've told you a million times, Tanya, if you want to discuss this, I will drop the link for you and have you on my panel. And I will pull up the presentation so the whole audience can see it. And you can discuss it and explain for it. But you have no excuse because you flat out have been copying me for almost a year, or at least the time that I've known you, 7 months. Your thumbnails, your titles, every single night, and you know this, I post my thumbnails at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning every day. So you know what subject I'm going to talk about. And then it's ironic that you're running a parallel stream exactly everything that I'm talking about. And you've even admitted that you watch my channel. I don't have time to watch you. I don't care to watch you. So stick to your boring channel, leave mine alone, and people will come here and hang out because I have great streams. So anytime you want to come into my chat and you want to talk to me, and you called me like a couple of weeks ago 9 times while I was streaming. That's super rude. You know I'm live on air. I would never do that to you. See, Tanya's upset because she was winning the battles of the subscribers. And I'm sorry. I started presenting. I did some research in my channel. I tweaked a few things, and the crowds came. They enjoy what I have to say. So get out and do some real work. Do you know how long that presentation tonight took me to put together? It took me almost all day, beginning the stream. Now, I don't want to do stuff like this, and I don't want to come after other creators. But when people are emailing me constantly for months and months and months, I held my tongue back. And the biggest bite in my ass is when you turned around and you used my stuff because someone called me out. One of your people that watch you consistently emailed me and said, hey, you're going to want to take a look at this. She took the case file and typed it in her own handwriting. So Tanya, you keep just doing your little thing over there. It's perfectly fine. Leave my subscribers and my audience alone. We don't care. We want to be here and be productive because I actually care about these people. I build relationships with a lot of people behind the scenes. I don't just go on Twitter and source my information. I actually put in the real work. So now that I was rudely interrupted, and now that everybody knows what's going on between me and her, and I frankly don't care. If she wants to confront me and talk to me about it, I will happily drop the link for her, and we can do it live. That's exactly what LTL stands for. Let's talk live. And I will bring up the presentation of the evidence of everything that she has copied me on, and I'll make it very clear to everybody because I've done it before. And I'll have her explain for it. So let's keep playing the Idaho. So how about this, Tanya? You said when you called me, keep my name out of your mouth. How about this? Keep my name out of your mouth and get your own material, because you copy me an awful lot. You copy me an awful lot, and you have been.
Fiber.
Now everybody knows it's all out in the open.
That fact alone could make collecting
I really
evidence
don't
a
care.
challenge,
I'll tell her right to
and
her
later
face.
trying to make sense of it once results come in from the lab. Morgan says the crime scene includes
I'll just
more.
do this right now. 10:12 p.m. on 12/30/2023. Tanya, if you ever want to talk about this, stop talking to me about me on your channel. I will happily drop the link for you. We can pull up the presentation that I have, and I would love for you to explain how you don't copy me. And you even said in the email, I wish that I never even got involved with the Chelsea Grim case. My audience didn't care about the timeline. They only cared about the conversation between her and her mother. How do you know that your audience would think that? How can you present a case without a timeline and educate people? It's because you want the lazy way out. So anytime, Tanya, link will always be dropped to you. I don't do things over the phone. If you want to talk publicly about me, I'll talk publicly about you, and we can do it right here on LTL. Let's talk live. We'll get it out in the open. I'll show you the presentation, and you can walk us through it.
More than just the house where the students were killed.
You're talking about a
That's
neighborhood
fine, Rich.
where you have people that are
It's
domiciled
fine.
immediately
You can
adjacent to
unsubscribe.
this standalone structure.
But this is the stuff
Everything
that
must be
happens
considered.
when someone
Couple the
continuously
complexity of
does
the crime
things.
scene with the fact that the quadruple murder happened in a city
And I've held my
with a
tongue
small police
for a
department.
long time about it. I have. But she's very worried about this audience and subscriber thing. People will come and people will go. And some people will agree with what you do and some people won't. That's just the nature of the game. But when you're truthful and you're honest with your people and you put in the hard work, they can see that.
Department that doesn't investigate many murders, and you could run into some real problems.
Crime knows no boundaries, and these murders have shaken us to our very core.
Let's
What do they
face
say?
it,
Imitation
Moscow
is the
police
highest
knew
form of
right
flattery?
away they were
Oh,
in over their
they imitate
heads
me a lot.
and immediately called for help.
We have 25 plus investigators working this case, as well as assistance from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Idaho State Police. We're reviewing video that has been collected, but we are asking citizens to contact us with any information you may have that will help in this investigation.
Police held press conferences, releasing bits and pieces of information to a community full of people who were living in fear.
We do not have a suspect at this time, and that individual is still out there.
One critical piece of information that police shared, they knew the murder weapon was a knife, but they didn't know where it was or who owned it. Word started to spread around the small town that police were going to local shops, asking about a specific knife, a K-bar knife.
Very heavy. It is a combat knife. It's been used by our troops since World War II, famously by the United States Marine Corps.
So how did police know exactly what they were looking for? In late 2022, that wasn't clear. But what you could easily find out is that anyone could go online and buy a K-bar knife.
And that's very specific. Folks that didn't see it, there's the word, K-bar. It actually is what's referred to as a bastardization of the words kill a bear. And that's how far it goes back. And so the knife was considered to be that robust as a combat knife. You show up with a knife like this, you know, it kind of implies that you're showing up with, say, some level of homicidal intent.
It appeared police, even with the help of the FBI, had little, if anything, to go on.
Just what happens in the beginning of a case like that, you don't know what's what. You don't know where to go. So you're just trying to stay in the investigative mindset so that once you get that break, whatever that break is that you were alluding to, like what that was, what was that one thing, you want to be able to be in a position so when that one thing happens, you can exploit it and you can take advantage of it.
The investigation moved forward slowly, day by day, with few details released. That didn't stop people from talking, though, about the case. There was something about it and the victims that seemed to strike people.
No. Terrible idea.
People seemed to have an insatiable curiosity to know who killed Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana, and why.
Murphy, you've been a bad boy.
No one could seem to understand how or why this happened to these 4 people who seemed so happy, their entire lives ahead of them. They seemed happy on social media, and people felt like they knew them or could have known them, as if the 4 could have been their sisters or daughters, or brother or son.
Ethan, let's see Gritty. Oh my God, that's
That may have been part of the reason that so many people took an interest. Amateur sleuths on the internet went searching for leads anywhere they could find them.
Hey guys, Moscow PD. Come over here, talk to me.
Every piece of video, and I'm talking every piece of video, came under scrutiny.
You got your ID on you? I don't. Okay, I'm gonna grab your info just because you got beer and you're walking around with it.
Even students walking around the area the morning of the murders became possible suspects, along with anyone seen near the area. And remember Hoodie Guy from the food truck? He became the target of online sleuths just for being there, leading police to take the unusual step of announcing who wasn't considered a suspect.
We do not believe the following individuals are involved in this crime. The 2 surviving roommates, a male seen at the grub truck food vendor downtown, specifically wearing a white hoodie, a private party who provided rides home to Kaylee and Madison in the early morning hour of November 13th.
Did you feel like the amateur sleuth stuff was harmful in this case?
You know, it
Thank you,
can
Rhonda.
be.
I appreciate it.
I know
Thank you.
that there are probably a lot of well-meaning people out there who are just trying to be helpful to law enforcement, provide the tips that they saw. The times have changed as well. We have access to so much information and videos and data.
Days and weeks passed without an arrest. Then came Thanksgiving.
Would you rewatch Minnesota? What did you rewatch? Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you for the $4.99. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super sticker.
And the beginning of December.
So as this is an ongoing criminal investigation, there's not a lot of new information that we're able to provide.
That was December 7th. A short time after that interview, police revealed the first new piece of information in many days.
Moscow police
Clearly.
put out a description of a vehicle.
She wouldn't have said anything if, I'm zooming past her. She just looks foolish, and she's constantly talked about me for a very long time, and she had to come on air tonight and do this, and it just ruins the experience for everybody, because clearly she's been caught. The thing that irritated me was the Chelsea Grimm stuff that she did. She took that case file when she had no access to it. She admitted it on her stream, but then pulled the whole case file up and typed it in her own handwriting and tried passing it off to her audience like it was her own research. I have emails of her admitting that she stole from me. So to me, that's not an honest person. I'm going to tell you one thing. I don't like dishonest people. Once you are stuck with that, I don't want to know you. I'm done. But then she was going to go on and run with Chelsea Grimm. She has no business being in Chelsea Grimm's case. Zero business. And what was she going to do tonight? She had her Chelsea Grimm stream planned. She was going to pull up Steve's tweets and read them tonight like she's been researching. And I had been talking to Steve for a while to get him back on because I knew he was just recently out there doing drone mapping in Williams, Arizona. And I want to update. So she's pissed because I actually built a relationship with Steve, and I'm going to have Steve on my show tomorrow. So she's going to look like an ass reading tweets, and then I'm actually going to have the person on my show that's going to that produced those tweets. And you can tell you can tell that she follows me every single day because I put a little nugget in my community page today to see if she would say something about it, and she did. So I know you continue to follow me. Like, you are obsessed, bro. Move on.
Hyundai Elantra between the years of 2011 and 2013. This vehicle was apparently seen in the area of the King Road home where the 4 students were murdered.
Certainly, it's the biggest lead, I think, from the perspective of specificity.
Is it Annie Elise? Annie Elise, that has like over 1 million subscribers, didn't even have the amount of information when she did the one video on Chelsea. And that other very nice girl, I can't think of, Rachel, she has like 55,000 subscribers, and she's like, she at least sourced me and said, I got this information from the LTL True Crime Podcast. I don't know how you got it, but it's fantastic research. So it's just like, don't butt your nose into something when you don't know. And the thing is Carrie and I took a huge offense to it because we went out and did all the FOIA requests to get all this information. And then behind the scenes, I'm like in private chats, I'm talking to Chelsea's close friends, I'm talking with Chelsea's ex-boyfriend, I'm talking with the guy that set up the frivolous GoFundMe account. Then I get close to the PI that was on the story. So we did a hell of a lot of research. And I just take offense that someone comes over, doesn't put the work in, says they don't even possess the case file, clips it off my screen, types it in their own handwriting, and passes it off like I did my own research. That's bullshit. That's the problem I have with her. And if she wants to ever come on and explain that, she can. I'll drop the link to her.
Isn't it? You know, I don't know about you guys, but yesterday when this dropped, I automatically retweeted this out, you know, and said that this is
good night.
This is breaking news.
That breaking news set off a frenzy and a nationwide hunt for a white Hyundai Elantra. Where was the car, and who was behind the wheel? And what clues might that white Elantra hold?
I get it. He wants to be
that the occupant or occupants of that vehicle potentially
I do.
saw, heard, or
I don't want to be
know
lazy
something
and
about
sit in
this
my
case.
chair. And
After
just go,
several days, it appeared the search for that white
I'm just gonna
Elantra
pull an article up and talk about it. No, I actually try to get close to people. The source
was going nowhere. Or was it? It is a white Hyundai Elantra in this photo and photographs without license plates and front end damage. Photos of a white Elantra with broken windows and front end damage found abandoned in Eugene, Oregon started making the rounds on the internet. Oddly enough, police didn't seem that interested and said they knew about the vehicle and were looking into it. Police would later say that the car wasn't connected. Another apparent dead end. Little did the public know that something was developing quite quickly behind the scenes. Police actually had their eyes on another Hyundai Elantra and its owner across the country.
We begin with that breaking news in this grisly murder case. A 28-year-old man, Brian Koberger, is now under arrest in connection with the killings.
The news came right before the new year.
I can share with you that he is a graduate student at Washington State University and has an apartment residence over at Pullman.
So who is Brian Koberger, the man accused of murdering the 4 students, and what is his connection to them? An expert and some who knew him weigh in. That's next.
The murders of Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan changed life on campus in Moscow.
You know, before people were very rowdy, sort of outgoing. Then they just started to keep to themselves a little bit more. The fact that the killer of the homicide may have been someone closely related, it always just throws out a little bit of doubt.
As students finished classes for the semester, the campus had pretty much emptied out.
Maybe half the people show up at best and everyone else is online.
A killer was on the loose, and no one knew who it was, or if he, she, or they were still around. The people who were still in town were on high alert, and so were police.
I came here because it's a safe campus, so it's part of my reasoning for coming here. It's not like a lot of other colleges where a lot of people are out at night and it's really like a really dangerous urban area. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Before Christmas in downtown Moscow, just the sight of a police car made you wonder, did they find him? Police cars certainly drew our attention one afternoon. Around Christmas in 2022, a couple of us here at Law and Crime were hearing that the investigation was intensifying. There had been some kind of break in the case with an arrest possibly coming. It could be days or it could be weeks, but officially, we couldn't get a confirmation. Things in the investigation, at least publicly, were quiet, almost too quiet, but it was Christmas time. Then on December 29th, Moscow Police Chief James Fry posted a video message.
We've received over 19,650 tips. We want to thank the community for all their help and thank everybody across the nation for the help that they've given us.
At that moment, the public didn't know that Chief Fry was keeping a big secret. An arrest was just hours away, so that thank you to everyone across the nation for their help seemed to take on new meaning the very next morning.
A man has been arrested in the Poconos in connection with the murders of 4 college students in Idaho.
His name, Brian Kohberger, a 28-year-old PhD student home for the holidays with his family in Pennsylvania. The FBI and state police surrounded the house owned by Kohberger's parents early that morning.
Mr. Kohberger was taken into custody without incident. The scene was turned over to the FBI evidence response team for processing.
The neighborhood in the Poconos was effectively shut down as police searched the house and seized Kohberger's white Elantra.
I can share with you that he is a graduate student at Washington State University and has an apartment residence over at Pullman.
Pullman is just a 10-minute drive from King Road, yet Kohberger was taken into custody 2,500 miles away. Prosecutors and investigators might have their man in custody, but that didn't mean they had all of the answers they wanted.
Y'all now know the name of the person who has been charged with these offenses. Please get that information out there. Please ask the public, anyone who knows about this individual, to come forward. Call the tip line. Report anything you know about him to help the investigators and eventually our office and the court system understand fully everything there is to know about not only the individual, but what happened and why.
There really wasn't much information about Brian Kohberger on social media, but what could be found raised more questions. The day of Kohberger's arrest, I found an Instagram account in which he appeared to follow Maddie Mogen and Kaylee Gonsalves. The account appeared authentic. He followed others with the name Kohberger. Law enforcement won't comment on the authenticity of the account because of a gag order. That account was later removed. Then there was the survey directed to ex-cons posted on Reddit, asking questions such as, how did you feel when you committed a crime? How did you travel to and enter the location that the crime occurred? And why did you choose that victim or target over others?
I don't think a degree in criminal justice helps anyone get away with murder.
Josh Ferraro was in biology class at DeSales University in Pennsylvania with Brian Kohberger. One detail that seemed to stand out about Kohberger's time at DeSales, his time in a class taught by Dr. Catherine Ramsland.
I have a class in dangerous minds that I teach at the undergraduate and graduate level, and that is really about extreme offenders, which is mass murderers, spree killers, and serial killers.
Dr. Ramsland is a world-renowned expert on serial killers. Most notably, she wrote a book with Dennis Rader, The BTK Killer.
His fantasy life is what propelled him. He was thinking all about these things and imagining himself as one of those elite serial killers.
I've interviewed Dr. Ramsland a couple of times about other serial killers, but to date, she isn't commenting on her former student, Brian Kohberger. But a student who was in Ramsland's class with Kohberger told me he remembered him speaking to her and another professor in a superior manner, as if he knew more about the subject matter than she did. The former student said Kohberger didn't participate in any of the extracurricular activities, such as the Criminal Justice Club.
I don't think he's the smartest guy in the room. I don't think he's amazing. I don't think he's super special. He definitely has some intelligence, but so does everybody else at DeSales.
After the new year, Kohberger appeared in court in Pennsylvania. The attorney who represented him for the proceeding told me Kohberger initially waived his right to counsel and agreed to speak with police after his arrest. But then he asked for a lawyer.
I mean, his family's distraught. They're shocked by the arrest. They are in constant contact with him still. I believe they're talking daily on the phone.
Monroe County Public Defender Jason Labar represented Kohberger for 4 days in Pennsylvania.
He was engaged with the conversations. He was aware of what plans I had, and he was good with everything that I laid out for him, including the statement of him being exonerated.
As Kohberger touched down in Idaho to answer to the murder charges, the evidence police claimed to have against him would become more clear. A probable cause affidavit described a detective finding a tan leather knife sheath stamped K-Bar USMC on it, next to Maddie Mogen's body. That's how police knew what the murder weapon was. Testing of the sheath revealed a single source of DNA from a male on its snap. The affidavit said agents pulled trash from the home of Kohberger's parents and found it was a 99.9% certainty the DNA on the sheath came from someone who was the biological son of the person whose DNA was found in the trash, meaning Brian Kohberger's father. That revelation raised questions. How did investigators know where to look for Kohberger's DNA?
Genetic genealogy was created by the citizen scientist community. It didn't come from traditional science or academia or forensic science.
C.C. Moore is a pioneer in the field of genetic genealogy, where DNA and genealogy have been used to crack cold cases. Think the Golden State Killer in California. Genetic genealogists like Moore take a DNA sample and use databases to build family trees.
We are typically working with a dozen matches, 24 matches, even more. And we're trying to connect to multiple branches of someone's family tree. And that is where we're able to really narrow it down.
We later learned the FBI worked with Othram Labs to develop the profile that led to Kohberger.
For instance, in this case, if they were able to connect matches to his father's side and his mother's side, that would have led them directly to him.
We also learned more from body camera footage. On December 15th, 2022, Brian Kohberger and his dad were on the move, driving from Washington to Pennsylvania.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good.
At this point, it doesn't appear that Brian Kohberger was on law enforcement's radar, at least not officially. That would happen about a week later.
You right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay.
Jason Labar told me that Kohberger and his dad making that long drive from Washington to Pennsylvania for the holidays was a trip that had been planned months in advance.
Driving for hours, days. Driving. Well, almost a day.
That deputy let the Kohbergers go with a warning, but 8 minutes later, Brian Kohberger and his father were stopped again. The FBI would later say that those 2 traffic stops in Indiana had nothing to do with the murder investigation in Idaho.
Hello, I am Officer Langus. Stops being audio and video recorded.
Kohberger actually has a history of being pulled over. Just 1 month before the murders, a Washington State University officer stopped him.
You know why I stopped you? You were in the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah.
We later found out that Kohberger had actually tried to get an internship at the Pullman Police Department that fall. He said in his application he wanted to help rural law enforcement agencies better collect and analyze technological data. He didn't get the job. Pullman Police won't say why, and the department will not release his application. Kohberger was a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University and a teaching assistant. Following his arrest, police searched his office in Wilson Short Hall. Some students described him as a harsh grader. Former friends said Kohberger struggled with a heroin addiction in high school, but he eventually got clean. He also struggled with his weight, but took up running late at night, according to friends, and dropped the weight. A neighbor at his apartment in Pullman told me Kohberger was certainly a night owl.
We heard,
We heard loud sounds during the night. Yeah. Many times. Like clean the floor, sometimes vacuum. It's very loud sound.
Moscow police said the night of the murders, Koberger was definitely up late. His cell phone records showing he left his apartment at 2:42 a.m.
He went for a long drive. He was just driving around.
His car spotted by several surveillance cameras driving toward Moscow.
Oh,
then from
there's one of your
2:47 to
cameras. Oh, there's another
4:48
camera.
a.m., there was no activity on his cell phone.
Ooh.
Prosecutors say
Never
that
seen that
2-hour
little
time
position.
period
A&W.
covers the time when the murders happened. Koberger's late night habits will become important later. Up next, more on the case against Brian Koberger and how he might challenge it, along with where the case stands as the victims' families try to move forward as they grieve.
Good episode. Really good episode.
As Brian Koberger made the flight from Pennsylvania to face the 4 murder charges, questions surrounded his involvement in the crime. And his arrival drew a crowd at the Latah County Jail.
Well, we come over here a lot and stuff, and it's just scary, going out in public, not knowing who's around you and what they're capable of doing and stuff. This guy looked like a typical person, going to college and stuff, and turns out, he did this horrendous crime.
Koberger was booked into the jail, the sheriff holding him in isolation for his own safety and accommodating his strict vegan diet. The details of what police claimed happened that night in November 2022 sounded like something out of a horror movie. The probable cause affidavit claimed Koberger's white Elantra was seen circling the area of the house in the 30 minutes before the murders, and that shockingly, one of the surviving roommates saw the killer, a man with bushy eyebrows wearing all black, his face covered. She said that he walked toward and past her after hearing what she thought was Kaylee Gonsalves playing with her dog upstairs. Then she heard someone crying and a person saying, "It's okay, I will help you."
According to one of the surviving roommates, the murderer went upstairs first to a specific bedroom that belonged to Maddie Mogen. So does that lead us to believe that maybe she was the target and the others would have been collateral damage?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I think that's a proper conclusion, I think, that can be drawn from what we know right now.
Sadly, Kaylee's parents would later say she had moved out of the King Road home and went back to Moscow only to spend time with her friends that weekend and to show off her new car. The killer, if he indeed went to Maddie's room first looking for her, may have been surprised to find both Kaylee and Maddie in the room, and then surprised again to find Xana still awake downstairs after getting her DoorDash order at 4 a.m.
Police said cell phone records showed that Brian Koberger had been in the area of the King Road house a dozen times in the months before the murders. He was even pulled over in August, a couple of miles from the house. But after the day of the murders, Moscow police said Koberger's cell phone records showed he never returned to Moscow.
Less than 2 months after the murders, Brian Koberger was in a courtroom in Moscow, listening to the charges against him.
The maximum penalty for that offense, if you plead guilty or are found guilty, is up to death and/or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
Prosecutors later announced they were seeking the death penalty.
And Ms. Taylor, is Mr. Koberger prepared to plead to these charges?
Your Honor, we will stand aside.
Judge John Judge entered a not guilty plea on Koberger's behalf. His defense team's efforts to have the indictment thrown out failed.
Well, honestly, I think they really have an uphill battle on the defense of this case. Everything that we know right now seems to point that he's the one who committed this crime.
About another 7, 8 minutes. I want to thank everybody for hanging out all the way to the end. Look, I don't like to air dirty laundry out on the air, but this all started from Tanya quite a few weeks ago, and she just can't let it go. That's the problem. She just keeps doing things to keep turning all this on. So as far as going forward, I don't really want to talk about it again. If she wants to continue to talk about me, I'll drop the link for her. She can come on the stream. We'll pull the presentation up and she can explain for herself. But I've already done it. I've showed everybody what she did. It's not cool as a creator to go over and just steal someone else's material and then literally not even clip it because it had my watermark on it, but take it and write it in your own typing and put your own watermark on it. I mean, that's essentially stealing, and that's not crediting. And that to me is just a very dishonest creator. So, we'll move on here. We'll keep charging forward. We have a lot of cases to get into. Tomorrow night with Steve from SF Investigates is going to be amazing. I can't wait for that Chelsea Grimm update. And he'll just talk about the drone mapping that he's been doing out in Williams and hopefully give us kind of a vibe of what's going on in the area out there in Arizona. So we'll get something together. We'll have Steve on. And again, I appreciate everybody over here and for hanging out. Appreciate it. All right, let's keep playing through about 7 more minutes.
Attorney Tara Malik says the case against Koberger is compelling.
The knife sheath that had the DNA on it, that knife sheath was found underneath one of the victim's bodies. Now, the job of a defense attorney and a good defense attorney is to look at all that evidence and to find where assumptions were made and leaps of logic were made.
Even Jason Labar, Koberger's public defender for a few days in Pennsylvania, agrees. The state's case looks convincing from what we know now.
It's a strong circumstantial case.
However, Labar believes the case is defendable.
But the evidence, when it's viewed individually, you can attack that evidence as a defense attorney. But if you take the DNA evidence that's recovered from the sheath, for instance, I believe that to potentially be touch DNA, transferred DNA, which would mean that it could remain on that sheath for an indefinite period of time if undisturbed.
Forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan on the sheath.
It would be clicked over and over again to get access, and it's just kind of actuating the snap.
It's important to note the public doesn't know the source of the DNA on the snap of the sheath.
If it is touch DNA, which is generally associated with dead, sloughing skin cells, this is a perfect place to harvest it from because it can actually be caught in this location and kind of protected in that area because it's underneath this lip.
The sheath is a major piece of evidence, no doubt, and leaving it behind was a colossal mistake on the killer's part.
I mean, you can imagine someone over these 2 victims and then dramatically they drop the sheath down, they're still holding the knife, and then they go into attack. And it's such a frenzied event. They bolt out of the room, they leave the sheath behind.
As far as the public knows, the murder weapon has not been recovered. It certainly hadn't been late last year, the last time police spoke about it before the gag order had been issued. And police haven't said whether they've found evidence that Koberger ever purchased a K-bar knife, although they have sought records for many of his accounts. The defense has said nothing publicly about this case. The only comments Brian Koberger's attorneys have made have been in court or in filings, but some of what has been stated has been interesting to say the least. First, the defense has said there's no connection between Koberger and the victims. So was that Instagram account that we showed you earlier indeed his? And another interesting claim. The defense says there was no blood or DNA of the victims found in Koberger's apartment, his home, his office, and most importantly, his white Hyundai Elantra. And finally, when asked for an alibi by prosecutors, the defense has only said that Koberger was out driving at the time of the murders. That's an interesting concession, as his cell phone records clearly show him on the move in the middle of the night. But where exactly they may claim he was at the time of the murders remains a mystery. The Facebook groups were buzzing about Koberger's arrest, but one profile had seemingly vanished. His name? Papa Roger. Papa Roger seemed to have a lot of information about the crime scene.
Thank you.
That seemed intimate, almost too familiar. And look at his profile photo. It had an eerie resemblance to Brian Koberger.
Many believe that Papa Roger is Brian Koberger.
Much like the Reddit survey and the Instagram account, Papa Roger's profile disappeared following Koberger's arrest. There was a lot of speculation that Papa Roger was actually the killer, talking about the crime online for a sick thrill. But I can tell you, Papa Roger is most certainly not Brian Koberger. Earlier this year, the Papa Roger profile became active again. I added Papa Roger as a friend and he accepted.
I've reached out a couple of times and received no response. There's really so little that's known about other evidence in the case because most of the motions have been filed under seal. It's been a source of frustration for Kaylee Gonsalves's family.
I think they felt like there would be a much more open line of communication with the Latah County Prosecutor's Office than there really is.
Attorney Shannon Gray represents the Gonsalveses.
We don't get any information. We don't have any information on the case. We don't get any additional facts.
A trial date has not been set, but when the trial does happen, the jury will not be taken to the house on King Road. The university says the house is coming down so the students can start to heal. It's a move the Kernodle and Gonsalves families oppose.
And I think everyone in America understands that. Like, why not just leave the house where it is? If you don't need it, great, right? Then, you know.
Cindy, thank you for the dono on Buy Me a Coffee, the 25. I appreciate the support. Thank you so much.
The trial goes and you demo it after the trial.
3 days after Christmas, more than a year after the murders, the home on King Road was knocked down after a final okay to the university from the prosecution team. The site of Moscow's nightmare is now an empty space, the house just a memory. The FBI had already gone back to the house to take final measurements for exhibits for trial.
I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI ends up building a complete scale-to-scale model of that house at a facility in Virginia that I used to work at. It's a huge warehouse, looks like a Hollywood soundstage, and they build houses in there.
Bobby Chacon believes that could help the jury understand how the killer moved through the house, along with the testimony of the surviving roommates.
A lot of this case is going to revolve around movement within that house. How he got in, I think that's going to be paramount, because what was heard by those surviving roommates, housemates. And so I think a scale model of that house and showing how he moved and the prosecution's theory of, you know, where he went first and second and third, I think is going to be very, very important for the prosecution and to the jury.
So many questions remain. Perhaps the most important question, though, is why? Will the families ever know why their loved ones were attacked in the middle of the night in a home where they felt safe? The families, though, are doing the best they can to move forward. Ethan Chapin's mother has written a book entitled The Boy Who Wore Blue, about her son whom she dressed in blue to distinguish him from his triplets. His family has also set up the Ethan Smiles Foundation to pay for scholarships for others to the university. Maddie Mogan's family established Maddie May Day and asked people to perform random acts of kindness on her birthday. And university students are designing a vandal healing garden and memorial. At graduation this year, the university awarded all 4 posthumous diplomas.
This is a moment for us to acknowledge the contributions they've made and celebrate their academic achievement with their families here today.
Xana received a certificate in marketing, Ethan in recreation, sports, and tourism management. Kaylee's siblings accepted her degree in general studies. She was supposed to graduate a month after she was murdered and planned to move to Texas for a new job. And finally, Maddie's parents accepted her bachelor's degree in business. 4 young people who will be forever young, their lives cut short before they ever really began.
Law and Crime will follow this case every step of the way, providing coverage on all of our platforms. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anjanette Levy. We will see you soon.
That was really good. Really, really good. Nice tribute, you know. Just kind of keeps us fresh to the case. I want to watch I'm still here. We're going to hang out. I'm here. I want to watch let's see. I want to watch this. Where did I see it? Let's go back and watch this. This is a great stream. This is the one I used the other day. Let's see. Okay, let's watch the first demo. Uh-oh. We're going to have secret info. What do we got? What do we got? You want me to drop the link? You can come on, or what? You want to do it in a chat? What do you want to do? I can drop the link, man. I'll drop the link and let you announce if you want to jump on quick. Up to you, man. If you want to jump on, you don't have to turn your camera on. You can just voice call or whatever. Turn your vocals on. Everybody wants you on now. Now you're in. You're in it to win it. He says I'm in bed. All right. He says I'm in bed. Let it out, man. Whatever you want. I think it's going to be something big. He says, I'll announce it here. Okay. We're waiting. We'll give him the floor. It's the secret. He's in bed. You think he's probably typing it. Probably. Uh-oh, we got to do do we have to do the drum roll? Okay, let's see. Massacre says, in less than 24 hours, a teaser music video is to be released on my YouTube channel featuring an iconic rap group. Here is your hint. Their music is in MTV, have been in MTV I'll get this. Their music has been in TV commercials all year. Huh. All right. I don't watch TV, so I can't help you, but I'm excited tomorrow to see the premiere, and as the new subscribers will respond to that as well. I gotta think. Maybe Carrie knows. She can let me know. Awesome, dude. Congratulations, bro. I can't wait. I'm gonna be over there watching the premiere. I can't wait. And we can't wait. When you get a chance, no rush. Get that song recorded. We'll get that out there as the intro and the outro. Yeah, man. Nice. All right, let's go back to this. Congrats, man. Enjoy. I can't wait. And just for anybody watching this video, when I just pulled the congratulations up, we're not congratulating that the house is being torn down. We're congratulating a viewer that's going to be dropping a teaser trailer for a major music video tomorrow. So we're excited about that. Man, they started early too, like 15 minutes earlier. So I gotta ask Vanderhoof, and I hope you don't mind me asking, have you ever been down to the home? Because I know you're in the area. Have you ever been there before? Oh, thank you. I think I'm gonna turn it into some merch. Yeah, there's no one there. There was no one there. Aha. I think it's Wu-Tang Clan too. I think it's Wu-Tang Clan. That was my guess. Oh, we definitely were. Okay, I got you.
Live from the Stream Center, breaking news on WFLA Now.
Nice.
Here's JB
I did see
Pino.
that video on your channel, bro. It was awesome.
Months ahead of a possible trial window, a murder scene bulldozed. The University of Idaho proceeding to demolish the home where 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death last year, a highly controversial decision. Let's take you out there live to King Road in Moscow, Idaho, where the sun has not yet come up yet, but the demolition, if my watch is correct, beginning more than 15 minutes early. Here you see one of the crew members standing over the rubble where the demolition is currently underway. This is the home, for those of you just joining us on Facebook Live or perhaps elsewhere on social media or on WFLA.com. This is the home where in November of 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death in the middle of the night. Afterwards, after a couple of months, the investigation led them to suspect Brian Kohberger, who is currently awaiting trial for the stabbing deaths of University of Idaho students Susanna Kernodle, Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Ethan Chapin. But 6 months before the possible trial window opens up, prosecutors, the defense, the university, in agreement that the King Road residence where the murders took place can be demolished, and that is what is happening on schedule here on King Road in Moscow. A decision that is just, without putting too many labels on it, is controversial. People asking already in our comment section, will this decision be regretted in the future? Now, prosecutors say they have all the evidence they need. In essence, they're not standing in the way of this being bulldozed simply because they feel that they have what they need to make their case should a trial actually occur in, let's say, I don't know, May, June, July, August. But the response online from people who have followed this case asking, why now? Why not leave it up for one more semester? Allow for the trial to begin as scheduled and it be used as a tool potentially, if needed, for the jury to reach their conclusion as to whether or not Brian Kohberger is guilty of first-degree murder. I'm going to ask my stream chat because look, it's not that big of a deal, but I think the demolition began early, right? The demolition was slated, I had it as 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 Central. And then, of course, Pacific time, Moscow, Idaho. So, yeah, and then some others in the chat here wondering, is there anyone protesting?
Nope.
I have another feed we're going to be bringing up here. Stand by.
There was no one protesting, which is awful. Thought there would be people out there.
As promised, we have now another picture to show you.
Massacre, thank you for the 25 on Buy Me a Coffee. Appreciate that, bro. You didn't have to do that. Thank you.
And I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between these feeds. I'm curious to know exactly what the scene looks like other than the house itself, whether or not there are onlookers, people on the block who came outside. It's cold. It's 34, 35 or so degrees in Moscow, Idaho this morning. But did anybody show up with signs? Are there any demonstrations taking place? It should also be stated as well that the university said that the demolition should take several days. And I remember thinking to myself, I have a hard time believing that a relatively small structure is going to take that long to demolish.
It's
not even 10 o'clock Eastern.
Really, Carrie? Wow.
And the home is already half demolished.
Does he have video of it up on his channel? I'm sure he does.
Remove a lot of the debris, what's left behind, and of course that's a process that will take several days. But I mean, in large part, the house is destroyed, and now, of course, it'll be very interesting to see the response.
It kind of looked like they just had a presence around there. I'm sure they blocked off the street. So, well, I don't know. There was people driving by, so it wasn't like they didn't block the streets. I don't know. I just think people stayed away. It's just a very sad day overall. I think it was inevitable it was going to happen, and it's a little bit different in that area versus like where we, because we're not there. So, yeah, man. Happy New Year to you, bro. Hopefully, you and your family do something awesome tomorrow. I'll be doing the ball live from my chair. We're going to have a New Year's Eve party tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really sad.
Online, seeing this.
When we get to where they split it down the middle.
Trial, perhaps.
Here it is. It's crazy, though, because a lot of people pointed out in photos as well, too, that you could see the sections where they cut out the walls. I can't really tell if that's 100%, but some of the videos were, the photos you could see is where they actually cut out the sheetrock for evidence and stuff like that. It's just crazy. They have a guard. Look at this guy watching. I want to see where they take care.
Because of souvenir hunters. Here it was. How long it was there? There's some. I don't know. What I do know is that we have a friend of the program joining. Let's welcome in from. I don't even know where he is. On vacation, man. Peter Tragos, the lawyer is joining us. It wouldn't be right to be talking about this case and not be bringing in Peter. Peter and I have streamed a lot on this particular story. Peter, you on vacation? Where are you, my friend?
I'm in North Carolina, man, and it's freezing here. It's freezing.
Well, welcome. Hope you and your family are great. Happy holidays to you and the Tragos clan. What's talk to me. You're looking at this. We've been talking about King Road for really more than a year now. You see this. What's your gut initial reaction, even before you're interpreting this as a lawyer? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, to me, there's just so many questions about why it's necessary at this point, this time. They talk about the economics. They talk about, how much it costs to keep the house up and those types of things. It's almost nothing. If you look at a budget and you look at everything they're paying for, to me, it really has more to do with probably PR, and they want people to not think about this when they think about the University of Idaho, and they want to try to put this in the past. And I can understand that. But while the case is still active, the world is still watching. Nobody's going to put this in their rearview mirror until the trial's over, and maybe not even then. As we know, there are post-trial things that happen that keep people's eyes and attention on it. And I just think there are so many more reasons to leave it up, just in case, better safe than sorry type of story, than to remove it at this point.
We're introducing #lawyer into the conversation. Of course, Peter is the lawyer. You can follow him on his respective social media platforms, including right here on YouTube. Peter, we're going to get to those #lawyer questions, because I'm sure a lot of the questions that our live chat has right now are similar to the questions that I have. But I want to start with this one, because I always try to approach situations like this lowest common denominator. And I start with this asking one fundamental question. Is there any financial reason? Is there any money reason as to why they would be proceeding with this? Or is it purely in large part, they just want to move on?
Yeah, I mean, the financial reason would just be to save the money to keep the house up, to take care of the house, can you hear me still?
Oh yeah, I got you. But I guess I'm also wondering. I guess I'm also I got you. I got you on the AirPods.
Okay.
I guess I'm wondering, are they afraid that the house is scaring off prospective students? I mean, I'm thinking about all of the various financial reasons as to why they would be so keen on taking this risk. It is a risk to demolish this house, and why they would want to move forward with it so badly.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the PR part of it, right? There's all financial ripple effects that come from people associating this case with the University of Idaho, right? It's students, it's donors, it's people coming to football games, basketball games, parents' weekend, whatever it may be. The little bit of tourism they probably get from the university being there is affected by this. And I think they think this is a step in the direction of putting this behind them, which, again, we can understand from the victim's point of view how hurtful this can be, how difficult this can be. For some of the victims, we can understand some of the victims, don't really care what happens because they realize it's not going to change what's going on. Other victims are probably in support, at least partially, because they also want to put it behind them. But at the end of the day, I think everybody wants justice in the case. And if this could help even 1% in getting that justice, whichever way it turns at trial, to me, I don't understand the reason why you would get rid of the house at this point.
To read the statement from this gentleman here, I'm just going to bring down some audio a little bit. But on the left is Idaho President Scott Green, and his statement read as follows.
Scott Green.
That the house is a grim reminder of the heinous act that took place there. While we appreciate the emotional connection some family members of the victims may have to this house, it is time for its removal and to allow the collective healing of our community to continue. This, of course, coming from the University of Idaho, and this is Scott Green from the University of Idaho website. So that, again, speaking to why they want to, that's it in their words. What we're going to do now is spotlight your #lawyer questions. We'll come back to #HeyJB, but while we have X amount of minutes with Peter while he's on vacation, providing us with legal analysis, we're going to try to just exclusively focus on questions and comments with #lawyer. And Peter, before I take Nicole's question here on the center of our screen, let's just start with this question. You're on vacation. How many minutes do you have for our Q&A here coming up?
I'm good till about 10:30, so I got a little more than 15 minutes.
All right, so let's do it. About a 15-minute Q&A, and then we'll send Peter on his way to have fun with the fam. All right, Nicole says, #first both. Again, use one of these hashtags in the YouTube Live or Facebook Live comment section if you want your comment featured on screen. So, what was the process like to get this approved? Who had the final say? What did that process look like? We've been talking, Peter, to kind of preface this, we've been talking about how there really was little objection other than the Gonzalez family, the Coronado family. There wasn't much of an objection outside of those two families in demolishing this house. So people wanted to know how this came to be.
So when you own the house, you can demolish the house as long as there's not a court order or somebody stopping you from demolishing your property. If it becomes a crime scene, there are some hoops you have to jump through. But at the end of the day, once everybody came, they did their digital reconstruction, they did their testing, they did their measuring, they gathered all the evidence. Law enforcement was done with it. Once the house was released from law enforcement, they theoretically could demolish the house. They waited, they talked to the prosecutor, they waited to hear from the defense. I don't know if they directly spoke to them or if they just waited to see if they were going to file anything in court to try to block this, any protective order, any injunction. None of that was filed. It seems like neither party was trying to keep this house up or really putting up too much of a fight to stop the demolishing of this house. Therefore, the University of Idaho owns this house and it's their property and they can do what they want with it. So there doesn't really have to be an approval process. They didn't have to seek approval from the court to demolish the house. But I do think they were respectful and waited to hear from the parties before making the ultimate decision.
And the decision has culminated with the demolition that you're watching here live in the center of your screen. Viola wants to know, hashtags for us both. Again, the FBI has stated, you guys, that they have digitally recreated a 3D blueprint of the house that can be used potentially at trial. So Viola asks, would the 3D scan actually be used for jurors to do a VR walkthrough? Now this is an interesting question. This is actually a fascinating question because VR is the idea that they would be able to put on virtual reality headsets to be in the home and see the digitally recreated murder scene. Now, Peter, have you ever heard of VR headsets being used by a jury? That would be obviously new territory, no?
So I haven't been a part of a trial or seen a trial where VR headsets were actually used. I think that'd be interesting to use that new technology. I would think it would probably look more like a virtual accident reconstruction where maybe they have a body dressed in black with a mask on, walking through the steps that they either have evidence that he walked through or that witness testimony can say, you know, I saw him coming down the stairs, entering here, exiting there. We have a footprint here in the carpet, recreating the scene, virtually walking them through the scene, showing them each bedroom, showing them the stairs, showing them how they believed it happened. Now, are they going to be able to get all that in? There will be challenges on what's admissible, what's not, what should be excluded, what should not, based on it being a recreation. And are they making any inferences? Are they making any jumps in their recreation? There's a lot of fights in every case, civil or criminal, when there is some kind of accident reconstruction that is virtual.
I can almost vision it, Viola. You can almost envision them rolling a big screen TV right in front of the jurors and right in front of the respective parties in the courthouse to show them a 3D recreation. But the idea of them using virtual reality, which is the idea of, again, putting on a headset or being immersed in that recreation.
It's also expensive.
I would imagine crazy expensive, right, Peter, to be able to go that far to take jurors into the house virtually. Let's look at some other comments that are just coming in this moment. And
while you look,
yes,
go ahead.
No.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the other issue with the virtual measurements and them recreating this virtually is people get annoyed at criminal defense attorneys, but good criminal defense attorneys pick things apart. And you have the FBI, you have local law enforcement, whoever it is that writes these reports. It's part of their job. They're experts. They do this for 20 years. They still make mistakes. And defense attorneys will have certain things completely thrown out or the credibility looking lackluster based on those mistakes. So let's say the defense has an expert that measured it one way, and you're 2 inches off on the state's expert, and they have this virtual recreation of the house that they're saying, oh, that window is actually 2 inches higher than you have it here. So wouldn't that make it a lot harder to climb through that window? Or you have the sliding glass door 6 inches to the left. If he would have done that, there would be a footprint here. And now it's all this virtual measurement and equations being used and math to recreate this virtually, and poking holes is going to be part of this. and showing how it's not reliable or not credible to use it the way the state wants to use it, it's probably going to be something the defense does in this case, just like they're going to pick apart police reports, just like they're going to pick apart DNA evidence, how it was collected, how it was tested. All of that is going to happen now with the virtual recreation of this crime scene.
The source material is quite literally being wiped away as we speak, is basically what you're saying. That if they need to correct something, it's pretty much now. They would never truly know because you can't go to a house that has been completely demolished. To Allie's question, hashtags for us both. Is it true that Bryan Kohberger could go to the house if the jurors went? This is interesting. So had the demolition not occurred and the jury was able to go, similar to Murdaugh, would Bryan Kohberger have accompanied them?
In most scenarios, they would be able to if they could create a secure and safe enough way for this to happen. I believe in Darrell Brooks, he was able to go down before the jury with law enforcement to see his car that they looked at as the jury view, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't believe Murdaugh went to Moselle. His lawyers did. So it really depends on if the judge thinks there was a safe and secure enough way to transport him to view what the jury is viewing. Again, as part of his rights as a criminal defendant to see what the evidence is against him. But at the very least, his lawyers would be there.
You know, one of the points that was brought up by the Gonzalez and Kernodle families in their statement was audio. You know, we're so caught up in visually what it was like in there, but hearing screams and what was heard from the first floor or from the third floor down to the first floor. Callie Cat wants to know, can they recreate what D was able to hear? Again, referencing a surviving roommate.
So they wouldn't have somebody stand across the street and scream so that they could hear what it sounds like. But similar to Moselle, if you do a jury view and you go inside, and if it's dead quiet and you can't hear anything inside, you can probably think as a juror, if I'm standing inside another house, it's probably similar to this. With Moselle, they could see all these trees. Could we have seen what was happening? Could we have heard it? If we're back by the house, how far away is it from the kennels? Could we have heard what was happening at the kennels while we were at the house? So you can kind of see, feel, hear, use your five senses when you visit the crime scene. Now, jury views do not happen in every case. It's not like this was guaranteed to happen. One side or the other could have objected to it still. Just the possibility of it, to me, would have been enough to leave it up for now. If you think about Parkland and the Nicholas Cruz shooting case here in Florida, and the status that they left that school up over all those years, to me, is a much bigger undertaking than this one house.
Michelle says the word that she uses is suspicious that the prosecution agreed to this. And again, I have to check my notes just to, journalist at heart here, making sure that my crossing my T's, dotting my I's, but whether or not the prosecutors actually agreed to this or whether or not they just didn't stand in the way objecting to this. But bottom line is the prosecutors didn't put up much of a fight, Peter, in preventing the demolition from taking place. Suspicious is the word that Michelle uses. If you're a prosecutor in this case, don't you want the source material? Don't you want the house to remain standing for as long as possible? What do you think?
So again, I don't know what the prosecutors know, right? And that's always a difficult part when we're commenting on these cases. The lawyers and the parties know so much more than we on the outside can know, especially with this case, all the things that have happened under seal and that have been confidential. I would think there are a couple reasons, probably three main reasons the prosecutors could have not objected to this. Number one, they didn't think they needed it. They weren't going to ask for a jury view. They did all the testing. They think the recreation is good enough, and they feel confident enough to go forward. Number two, they're overly confident. They feel like they have so much evidence, there's no way any reasonable juror would ever not convict Bryan Kohberger. So they said, what the heck, the University of Idaho, do whatever you want. We don't need it. Or number three, they thought potentially a jury view could be bad for them. And maybe they think there's some argument the defense could make or some lack of evidence type of deal that if the jury went to the house, they'd be like, this was impossible for one man to do this in however many minutes. And maybe they thought it was actually not a great view for them evidentiary-wise. And that's why they felt like they may be better off with the house demolished. I don't know. Those are just the three kind of arenas I could see the prosecutors thinking in when not putting up a fight to demolish this house. Like you said, I'm not so sure they agreed to it or wanted it to happen.
Jay Ray, this comment, Peter, we could always go down the rabbit hole of what ifs, but given how topical this is, I want to read this comment, hashtag HeyJB from Jay Ray. What if somehow the murder weapon was inside of the house, like in an air conditioning duct work or something like that? It has to be stated, the actual knife used in the murders of Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee has never been recovered, according to prosecutors and authorities, rather. Even though they, of course, combed through this house, combed through the Kohberger home in Pennsylvania, while the sheath was recovered, in addition to a DNA sample on the button of that sheath, the knife itself has never been recovered. But J. Ray is asking, if the murder weapon was found in the rubble here, Peter, then what?
Well, you're saying if it was actually found. I mean, obviously they'd have to do testing. They'd have to look at it. The problem with it would be, a major problem would be, where was it, right? I mean, you see these huge pieces of machinery just ripping stuff apart. If, he drops it in the back of the truck and somebody sees a knife fall out, where was it? Was it on the first floor, the second floor? Which room was it in? Which air duct was it in? Was it in the toilet? Where was it hidden? We have no idea. Is there going to be DNA testing? Is there going to be any of these construction workers or demolition people or anybody before with their DNA on it? How do you actually keep it clean? There are all sorts of issues. Now, the argument on the other side could be, well, we probably never would have found it if they didn't demolish the house. So maybe it was a good thing they demolished the house if they did find the weapon. To me, one of the other big questions is, if there's a not guilty verdict, it's over. And I think it's almost impossible to prosecute anybody else than Bryan Kohberger at this point, because they're not going to have the opportunity to do this testing, look at the house, see if they want to block it, and demand a jury view on their side. So this is an all or nothing attempt, which most are. Once you prosecute and arrest and try somebody for a crime like this, it's very difficult to then switch gears to somebody else, because you've already made statements and gotten witness statements and put up enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that you believe it's this person. So any defense would be able to use that person as another suspect, as besides of their client. But just an interesting thought process about the risks when demolishing the house like this.
Right. Or what it could potentially uncover. Now, look, federal authorities have been in the house. Prosecutors been in the house. Obviously, authorities in Latah County, Moscow, Idaho have been in the house. This house has been micro-analyzed to get every little shred of evidence possible. It would be cataclysmic to think about the potential ramifications if the murder weapon was in the house all along. That is a crazy concept, but it just goes, even if it's not the murder weapon, any piece of tangible evidence that was salvaged from this, or whether or not we don't know where this rubble is being taken, Peter. We don't know if authorities are going to be going through it at all and checking to see if they missed something, or if this is just going to a landfill somewhere. Perhaps that's being reported on some other networks. I'll be able to check a little bit later on. But we have 5 more minutes with Peter before he's got to go and resume his vacation. So this is a last call for your comments, question. We'll try to get a few more into the queue here, you guys. But let me ask Peter this one. On the way in this morning, woke up around 5 a.m. or so, and on the way in to the Stream Center this morning, I was listening to Peter's most recent video when he was talking about how this trial is potentially scheduled for this summer. And Peter, at the end, spoiler alert, sorry, Peter, but I'm going to spoil this for the end of you. Watch Peter's video. He articulates this point, but as Peter gets to the final points of his video, he expresses some doubt as to whether or not this will actually happen in 2024. Peter, your line of thinking is that if you're Bryan Kohberger, you want to delay this as much as possible to establish as much of a defense as you can and build your own defense to be as prepared for whatever prosecutors throw your way. You were talking about even summer of 2025 being a potential for this trial. Now, where we stand today, odds, you know me with numbers, right? You and I have hung out enough to know. Odds that the trial actually begins summer 2024.
Because the state asked for it, it's got to be more than a 1 to 10% chance. I'd put it somewhere in the 20% chance. I think it's more likely than not that the trial is not going to happen in the summer of 2024, especially with some of the things happening under seal, the interlocutory appeal that Kohberger is trying to file and move certain things up based on what happened to the grand jury. I think I'm actually doing a video later today with my dad, who's also here on vacation with me, to talk about that process, how that works, what delays that could cause. So I think that at this point, Kohberger knows the state is more than ready, 100% ready. And I think the demolition of this house shows how far through the process they are, and that they're, sorry, there's a truck driving by me. So it shows how far into the process they are. And I think the state's ready, and nobody's going to be surprised at that. So I think Brian Kohberger and his team want to do everything they can to make sure they're as ready as possible. And if they're not, they're going to delay it until they feel as confident as they can be that they've unturned every stone, dotted all their I's, crossed all their T's. There's no reason to rush it at this point. So I think they're going to take their time, and I think the court should and would grant continuances at this point if Kohberger asks for them for legitimate reasons.
Because we only have a minute or two left, one more question from our interactive audience. I think it's Remley or Rem, #KJB. They've said the house has changed inside, so it wasn't really going to be useful. What exactly does that mean? This is the point that we were talking about before you hopped on stream, Peter. The idea that so much time has elapsed. How preserved was the integrity of the crime scene itself? How preserved was it? And how useful would it have been should a trial had actually occurred? If it were to occur this summer?
Yeah, and I think this could mean multiple things. Yes, time passing could affect certain things, but I think more importantly with this house, a lot of testing was done. And again, what's so great about experience and watching other cases, and I know a lot of your viewers have, we think about Murdoch, and we think about that shirt with the blood spatter evidence. They tested it until it was rendered completely useless. It was a different color. They had cut pieces off of it. It looked nothing like the shirt from the videos that he was wearing that day. So that could have happened also with the furniture, with the flooring, with the carpet, with the windows, whatever it may be. It could be substantially different on the night of the crime, but also a lot of it could have been tested, destructively tested, to where it was different colors depending on what they had to spray on it, if they had to cut pieces of the carpet out. So walking through the house, it probably looked a lot different than it did the day the murders were actually committed. So yeah, there are multiple reasons that it is very different now than what it was back then, but spatially, and like you said, can you hear things? What can you see? How long does it take to walk up the stairs if you walk through that back sliding glass door? I think there was still some potential evidentiary value to leaving the house up.
Heard it here from Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know. Peter, the final question I'm going to ask you is, what does a Tragos Christmas vacation look like? You have stepped away from a little bit of vacation time in North Carolina to spend some time with us on stream. Is it skiing? Is it roasting s'mores? Is it endless Scrabble and Monopoly marathons? What are you going back to?
A little bit of everything. My parents have a place here, and we get a couple other condos. My sisters come up, all their kids, tons of cousins here. We golfed yesterday. We're going to do some pickleball today, go down to Asheville, downtown, hang out there for a little bit. We're going to go tubing in the snow. There's like a big mountain you can snow down, or a tube down in the snow. We'll hang out. We'll watch a lot of movies, eat a lot of meals together around the table, tell some stories, have a lot of fun, play a lot of games. I'm looking forward to it. It's the week I get to relax more than pretty much any week of the year. So I do enjoy it. We do the same thing every single year right after Christmas.
And you're still going to stream on Christmas, or are you making a video?
Yeah, I like it. I streamed yesterday. I'll probably make a video. I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy coming and hanging out. If something's going on, we talk about it. I still work a little in the morning and at night on my computer. Everything's, online now in the cloud. So I do enjoy doing that. Actually, it gives me peace of mind to continue to work just a little bit. And I enjoy doing the streaming and stuff. So when stuff's happening, we'll talk about it like this. So I appreciate you texting me, and happy I was able to jump on.
Yeah, man. Look, while I was out on leave because we were growing our family, you should know that one of the content creators I listen to the most, of course, yourself. You're a friend first, my friend.
Thank you.
All the best to you and the family. Happy holidays, man, and appreciate your expertise as always.
You as well, man.
All right, Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know. You really want let's comment section. You guys can thank him for spending some time with us on the package for everybody.
Speed up a little bit here. Just want to see
That's
this.
The silver lining for people who are desperately seeking justice in this case. In watching this here today, is that the state is really at the poker table here and going all in because they are so confident and they're in perhaps pocket aces. They are so confident in their evidence that they have in their case that they feel that they can demolish this house, and they are still going to get the conviction that they so desperately seek.
No worries,
Let's go
bro.
here live, folks. I want to show you They have now resumed excavating the second half of the home, or at least that's what it looked like there for a second. There you can see they're moving the excavator position. They have now, it appears they have cleared enough of the rubble away that they can now move their equipment into position to resume demolishing the home. I'm going to read your comments right now. We're going to take 60 seconds just to listen in here. In the meantime, I'm going to read through some of the comments, add some of your comments to the queue. And back here live, let's go to some of the comments as they are coming in. And we'll start here with Kim. Again, use hashtag KJB to have your comment featured. There was another one in the queue that just got erased. Trying to get to as many of your comments, folks, as possible across Facebook and YouTube Live. Kim says, how did your news crew to be able to get so close to the demolition where others could not?
All right, everybody. We're going to wrap this one up. It's about 11:30 here on the East Coast. About 3 hours of streaming. Appreciate everybody tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have Steve from SF Investigates on tomorrow to give us some updates in Chelsea Grimm's case. He just recently was back out in Williams doing some drone mapping, and I'll be excited to see if he has anything he can share with us. So again, thanks for all coming. I appreciate it. Get some rest. I'll be back here tomorrow, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everybody have a great night. Talk to you then. Bye.